are you people? Tell the show! The only daughter selling her soul for bail money.
Sounds like good, you like that.
Archimedes was fascinated by water displacement.
I'm not gonna hurt you.
You heard it up top. Dun, 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 dun. We are picking up the whip one more time. We promise this time when we're talking about the hero that beats all heroes. That's right. The Doctor himself, Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny, here on Normies Like Us with your hosts. For some reason I want to say Nazi Colin, and I hate it.
Don't do that.
And I also don't want to say it. So what am I gonna say? I'm gonna say like Wombat Colin.
All right. I'll just be Mike Mickelson.
Dun, 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 and this is Indiana Jake and the dial of this movie.
Hey,
Whoa.
the dial of this podcast. Yeah, so we all went and saw a little indie movie over the weekend, and we're here to talk about it. Hey.
Love it.
Thank you. I've been sitting on that all week.
It's very good.
But yeah, Indiana Jones, Dial of Destiny. Big send-off for one of cinema's biggest characters, like Colin said. We've done an indie episode earlier.
Yes.
Go back, but
I definitely wanted to point
history.
out. At one point, we did like a summer of blockbusters, I think, and we definitely hit an Indiana Jones episode. And I remember it ruling.
Mm-hmm.
I want to say that was the summer of the first quarantine summer when there wasn't a lot of new movies, right? So we started doing classic blockbusters like Jaws.
Yes, you're probably right. Yes.
Indiana Jones. So go back to those episodes, Norris. I'm sure they were great.
So glad we did all that.
We all
fond memories.
Yeah, we all love
now,
Crusade, and we like indie generally, right? I mean,
we do. Fans. Here's my question, because my memory is not as good as Dr. Jones, and that I can't tell you where an artifact came from just by looking at it. What was our histories with these films? Do we like these films? When was the last time you watched them, Jacob?
I mean, I rewatch these movies a lot, especially Raiders, Last Crusade, those two especially. But all of them. And for this movie, I did rewatch a few. I rewatched Raiders, and then I skipped a Crystal Skull because I didn't want to. I didn't have a lot of time, so I was like, I'm not going to watch all of these. Temple of Doom, I skip over that one a lot of times just because it's not my favorite. Crystal Skull, I wanted to watch though because it was the last one before this one.
Well, you only like the grandpa indie films, is that right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Last Crusade though, I think is up there with Raiders. For me, it's like 1A and 1B, those two. And then, we may go into Crystal Skull a little bit in comparison to this movie. And I'll say my hot take is that I'm a Crystal Skull defender. I think that movie's a little bit overhated, in my opinion. I literally just rewatched it, so I can say that it's not a bad movie. And I sometimes would even take it over Temple of Doom. So there you go. That's my indie opinions.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think on the last episode we did, we all grew up watching these, but I was, for whatever reason, I watched Temple of Doom the most. After watching Last Crusade for the episodes, the last time I saw these was when we did that episode, so I don't watch them that frequently. But I'm familiar with them. I like them. A good boulder chasing a guy, minecart. Kalima. We named the dog Indiana. I'm here for it. And I think I ended up being like Crusaders is again a 1A, 1B. But I think Raiders still just because it's the first one, and I think Temple above Crystal Skull, but it was basically in that order.
I think that was the big conclusion that we came to in that last one was that Last Crusade is up there with Raiders, and some people actually like Last Crusade better. I think Raiders is just like a perfect film, like it's the perfect version of that film. But yeah, I also didn't rewatch them until like the last time I had rewatched them was for that last podcast until this weekend when I rewatched a couple of them.
Right. And Colin, refresh us on where you were at.
It is scary how much I'm mirroring Jacob right now for this episode. Look, here was my ranking in the past. I'm a Last Crusade dude. You could obviously never get me to say quality-wise it's better than Raiders. I concede that. So like you, 1A, 1B. You obviously, come on. And the rest or whatever. For this podcast, I rewatched Raiders and Crystal Skull, my friend.
Yes.
Oh my God.
Wow.
And look, guys, we're old enough to say that Crystal Skull came out when we were in college. Like I have very fond memories of going to it. We might have even been friends at the time, Jacob. That I can't recall. It might have been too young into
I
our
don't know. It was
college
2008,
career.
so it was the summer after I graduated high school. So it was before I started.
Yeah. Okay. Definitely
Yeah.
not then.
I saw that
And
at the
just
Cinerama Dome, like when I was in film
oh,
school out here.
you're already out here in
So
California.
like it was
That's
very
dope and
Hollywood. Like,
wild.
wow, Indiana Jones at the Cinerama. It was a big deal. Yeah.
That is a nice one of a
Yeah.
kind of experience. I just remember in college going with friends and being like, I'm too old to see this movie and I'm too old for Indiana Jones now. So, guys, you certainly wouldn't believe how I felt for this movie we're going to talk about today.
Oh, jeez, I can't
Yeah, I
wait.
may feel similarly. And when I saw Crystal Skull in theaters,
Yeah.
I didn't appreciate it as much, I think, as I do now because
No.
I didn't I knew, like, I had seen Raiders of the Lost Ark and I'd seen all the movies and everything, but I didn't appreciate them at the same level that I do now. So I think looking back,
Yeah.
yeah,
I
I
want
think it's a lot like the Star Wars prequels, where at the time they were
Yes.
hated.
Hmm.
Looking back now, people have fonder memories of them
Yes.
than they once did.
I want to
Yeah.
I want to nip this in the bud, Jacob, because I kind of foresaw that some of this will be coming out. Because guess what? To mirror you once again, I've also softened on a little film called Crystal Skull,
Yeah.
and to agree with you completely.
Wow.
Like, what is the name of this podcast? Normies like us. Like
believe.
the
Nailed it.
normie take right now. People are posting, and all these reactions are coming out. They're like, "Hey, hate to be this guy. Guess what? The fridge nuking makes sense, and I like Crystal Skull." And you're like, okay, a consensus is building. And
Yeah.
Jacob, I would 100% agree if memes persisted and lasted the way that they do, that we would literally be mirroring what I think was the big thing that saved what you were talking about, prequel memes, where people used Reddit to be like, you know what? We're starting this as a joke, but actually the Star Wars prequels are good. If memes persisted like that, we would now have Crystal Skull memes.
Skull memes. Should.
Yeah.
Well, I think they're very similar if you think about it. Both,
Yes.
George Lucas involved projects that were coming back from, return from their classic versions, the originals,
Yes.
right? And both had some questionable CGI moments.
Yes.
But I think enough time has passed since it's come out that people have sort of gone back and relitigated and said, like, you know what, maybe we're kind of harsh on it.
But the key thing is just the time passing. It's just that people have grown up who were younger when they saw it, and now they're just nostalgic.
Yeah, I was 18 when I saw it. So.
Right. And I guess, too, like when Crystal Skull came out, for a lot of people, it's like Indiana Jones and CGI. Like, this is sacrilegious, right? You can't, this is an Indiana Jones. And it's like it evolves with the technology. I mean, that's what ILM fucking is, and always has been with Star Wars. It's like, so once you kind of get over the fact that, like, okay, CG is a part of it, and again, you sit with it and you take it for what it is. Like, the first half of it's pretty good. I don't like the alien stuff, but, like, I think, and again, it's directed by Spielberg. Like, it's going to not be shit. It's Spielberg, so.
Yeah.
I guess there's that, too.
And I think the CGI, is that 2000 CGI. If the same movie was made today, obviously the CGI would look better because technology has advanced since then.
Yeah, but at least it didn't open the new one. We'll get to it, but I hated when Crystal Skull they show the Paramount Mountain and it turns into a little hill, and then a CG prairie dog pops up, and I'm immediately like, oh no, it's like
Mike, I know it's the CGI, but I love that moment. I think it's so clever.
I like the bit, but frame one, I was like, ooh, we're getting bad CG, aren't we? And I knew it.
I'll say frame one of Dial of Destiny, I feel similar because they had the Paramount logo, but then they don't do the fade into the mountain.
They don't do the mountain.
It's wild. It's wild, guys.
Well, I can't wait to jump into the Dial of Destiny. I don't know if we spend enough time here, but it's kind of irrelevant because if we get the dial, we can do whatever we want. But
that's right.
Do we want to dial it in and calculate some continental drift and get in the episode, or what?
Oh, sounds great.
I promise, listeners.
Yeah.
All right. Coming up.
We're back here on a very special episode because we're talking about one very special man. That's right. It's him. It's still him. It's always been him. It's Indiana Jones. And the Dial of Destiny here on Normies Like Us. Yeah.
I want to mention, first of all, we're going to be spoiling the movie if you haven't seen it. So that's a thing. But I forgot to mention there was a period in time when I was in high school and I would go thrifting and I somehow got a leather kind of bomber jacket that was similar to an Indiana Jones jacket. And then I would just walk down the hallway in between classes playing the Indiana Jones theme out of a PSP, like audibly, and that's just what was a bit that I would do.
I'm
for
sure
like
you were
a
really
couple
my-
cool.
I was
I
really
love
it.
cool. Ask
That
anybody.
is very cool. I've had a lot of friends over the years, male friends, who have said, "Hey, look at this Indiana Jones Halloween costume I put together," beaming with pride. And I gotta say, I'm jealous of every one of them.
There's
Absolutely.
a certain overlap, yeah, with the Indiana Jones and sometimes an Obi-Wan cosplay person. But
In Evil Dead and Ash, it's
a
just
gruff,
these. If you're
handsome
just
guy,
a white
yeah.
guy with kind of a beard, these are the costumes you put
decent
together.
jawline in your set.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
But yeah, a lot of people did that, and it's a classic. He's an iconic character. I mean, again,
He is.
kind of the history we touched on in our main episode, but adventure serials, just a general adventure man, and it's well known that he's just kind of this trope, just like Star Wars is like a Flash Gordon thing. This is like a trope on these old jungle explorer archaeological serials, right? It's an iconic look: the hat, the jacket, the shirt, the whip. He's the man. He's awesome. So.
Yeah, I think if you grew up in any time from, 1980 on, he's one of the like biggest masculine figures of pop culture that you can kind of look up to as a sort of I guess, non-toxic masculinity representative, right?
Yeah, I mean, things happen. Things are. Every era has different things that, let's say, they can get away with, and some things age different. General context. But
Yes.
overall, like he's a pretty
Some things
solid
Temple
character.
of Doom may not age the
No,
best.
James
no,
Bond
no.
hasn't been perfect either.
No.
You know what
Indiana
I mean?
Jones is pure.
But the concept,
Right.
I think Harrison Ford's charisma really carries that character, makes him like an endearing kind of, American icon. It's like one of the big
Yes.
three. You'd think of
Yeah.
fictitious.
Well,
figures.
and we said our history with the character, of course. Let's just say real quick, what's your history with the main man himself? Obviously, Harrison Ford, like we said, has been the character of Dr. Henry Jones Jr. The entire time the characters existed. We've talked about Han Solo 50,000 times on this podcast.
Mm-hmm.
Sure.
Yep. 48,221 according to C3PO's count. Now 22.
No, hey, never tell me the odds, kid.
You're right. And again, yeah, great roles from Harrison Ford. I first learned about him watching Star Wars, the original, and then in Indiana Jones. I can't remember. Temple of Doom might have been the first one I saw. It might have just been on a VHS my dad had recorded. So it might be a case like that too. Yeah. But I like him, yeah.
I mean, yeah, I love Harrison Ford. He's the ultimate movie star. I mean, you can say Tom Cruise, but Tom Cruise is a weirdo in real life, and Harrison Ford seems like a pretty chill guy in real life.
Yeah, just smokes weed, hangs out. He's the ultimate movie dad, Jacob. He's a guy who very often shouts, "Where's my daughter?" as he's shaking someone or running from scene to scene.
Yeah, I would argue he's like the coolest boomer probably to ever live. Like if you took all the boomers,
you know what?
he might be the best one.
I like that he doesn't like Star Wars. Like, you are right. Like, the caretaker assigned to him does make him cooler than other boomers.
After some of what we went through with Palpatine returning, he was kind of way ahead of the curve on the.
Yeah, I gotta get out of here.
Wars.
I'm just like, this is. I will come back for this one and really act. But other than that,
yeah, and his cantankerous kind of attitude just adds to his charm in a way. Like he just, he has this sort of aloof charm.
Give a shit.
Yeah.
Yes.
Cool. And I think also just him in Raiders is probably the best that a guy has ever looked ever. So like,
it's like it's such a cool factor. He's like he's doing adventure stuff. Sick hat, sick look. I mean,
no one can stop him.
Now, just real quick,
right there.
that was the peak. We're in now what I would call the, it was the reconnaissance. It's the Ford period, the Rene Ford, maybe. Do you guys fuck around with any of this new stuff? Yellowstone prequel, Shrink on Apple TV, or the upcoming Red Hulk appearance in Captain America 4?
Well, I'm glad he's still working, getting those paychecks. He's playing Thunderbird Ross in the MCU now, taking over for the previous actor who unfortunately passed away somewhat recently. I don't know if he will turn into the Red Hulk in this movie, but
dog.
Do you think he's going to?
I 100% hope he does.
They were testing his face technology with this one.
Sure.
It's a big CG monster. Just put his face on it.
Yeah, well then we've seen it in this one. Certainly,
I
as a
do like
CG monster.
his willingness to come back to these old roles. Blade Runner 2049, obviously.
Man, yeah.
Han Solo in the
Yeah.
Disney Star Wars movies. And
But-
now
That's what I should have
Jones.
led with, probably.
One of your favorites, Mike. But
Yeah.
Jacob, you called him a movie star. He's doing all these TV shows now. Do you think that's dropping his quality down? His
It's
little
surprising.
Star
I
power?
mean, maybe he's just in it for the paycheck. He never had really did TV until recently, right? So the Yellowstone prequel, that's kind of a big deal. I mean, a lot of people like Yellowstone.
You
The
would
Jason
assume he'll
Segel
win an
show is a
Emmy.
little weird. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm.
I don't know why he decided to do this psychology show with Jason Segel, but you know what? Whatever he does, I'm just happy he's working.
Yeah. No, again, I like his attitude and his kind of not caring about being a celebrity almost. Like he's like, yeah, the coolest boomer. I think that's the best way to put it. Coolest boomer movie star, at least, for sure.
I can't think of a cooler one.
No, he's
No.
just chilling. And Indiana Jones, I think, has always been his favorite role to portray. Like, even in Temple of Doom, a movie kind of nobody wanted to make, he's still very charismatic and likable. And, like, there's something about, like, the right mix of him being able to use his charm and, like, be a cool, suave guy. Like, Indiana Jones is kind of, like, the best of the best when it comes to Harrison Ford's, I think, maximizing his natural attributes.
And the other thing with Harrison Ford that I think is worth mentioning is that he's also like an intellectual, right? Like he's a professor, so it's like he's not just an action hero. He's also like into archaeology and in like history and stuff. And he's like, doing it for the love of history. So he's not just like a cool action guy. He's also like kind of a nerd.
He
Yeah,
had to
cool
learn the
nerd.
action. Yeah, he had to learn how to do that because he likes archaeology so much. It's a side
Yeah.
effect of his love of archaeology is running
Right.
into bad guys. So he had to learn.
He just
to fight
happens
them.
to have to fight Nazis sometimes.
Yeah, and
to
he's like,
keep
you know
in his
what?
way.
I like artifacts so much. I'm gonna learn. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's great. I do like that a lot.
Yeah, he's an academic.
And it's almost like it's Harrison Ford's destiny to be dialed into this role, right?
Yeah.
That's right.
That's right. That's right, guys.
And it's gonna be our
And-
last Crusade because it's the last Indiana
This-
Jones movie.
Wow.
So I'm
It
just saying.
is. It is.
Was this
Look,
movie, did they raid the Lost Ark for success, or did we enter Temple of Doom with this movie? I leave it
Thank
with
you. I was going to say, could you do one more? I love it, Mike. Thank you so much. for that.
Harrison could do
Look,
one as well.
Here's what I'm going to say. We're going to talk about this movie today. In fact, we might do it right now. I barely want to.
Right.
For what it's worth. I pretty much only want to talk about the circumstances that led to what I think this movie is, which is a very unfortunate creation and just part of the times, which is that you get a very interesting director like James Mangold to make a film where he's really just not allowed to be very interesting. And Mike, earlier you were saying what a surprise it was in Kingdom of the Crystal Skull to see Indiana Jones in a CG world. And the horror I found myself experiencing this is to see, of course, CGI humans, CGI backgrounds, CGI objects. That the fact that I am looking at a movie where truly I cannot trust that anything is real on screen from a film that was so practical they had anti-venom on set so that snakes wouldn't kill people is a huge bummer.
Yeah.
Right.
So
Well, I'll say this. Going into it, my one question was kind of like, is this, I didn't think it was going to, live up to the original 3, but I thought, is this going to be worse than Crystal Skull or is it going to be better than Crystal Skull? And overall, I think it's worse. I mean, Crystal Skull is a better movie than this. Yeah.
Tell me, hold on, Mike, tell me where you're at with that statement, because I certainly agree with him. But please, I want to hear you.
I've only seen it twice.
Okay.
And I've only seen this once. And I'm still figuring out. So maybe by the end of this conversation, I'll have an answer for you, Colin. How's
it's going to be like your guys' Flash episode. I think we're going to come
bottom,
to some major
what goes-
conclusions by the end of this. Yeah.
Actually, no, I guarantee it. I'll say right now, this is better, and you'll find out why I think that at the very end.
Okay.
That's
Well, I think I literally just watched Crystal Skull before watching this movie. So I have a very good comparison having just seen them back to back. And I think this is definitely a worse movie. It's maybe a safer movie in that they just wanted to make a middle of the road Indiana Jones movie to please people, it feels like. But it, there was no sense of risk or surprise in making this. It kind of just feels very mid to me. I didn't like the cinematography was very bland. Like Spielberg's movies always look really good because he has a great sense of like framing and blocking and stuff, right? And this movie just felt like a very generic, kind of generically shot, generically lit. Like, also, look, we're going into the intro sequence, right? And Colin, you were talking about the CGI de-aging technology.
The entire prologue essentially is this flashback,
yes.
right? Yeah.
Yes, which of course we've seen in Indiana
Jones.
Jones.
Whole prequel Indiana Jones movie. And yes, we have Jacob, but in the Last Crusade style of River Phoenix just appears and gets to have an adventure. Now that would never happen.
No, it's young Indiana Jones, de-aged. I will say this. It's the best looking de-aging technology that I've seen in a movie. Not saying that's like a super high bar, but even comparing it to something like The Irishman, where it was Robert De Niro, and that was Martin Scorsese, a master director, and it still looked very bad.
Honestly, I still stand by Samuel L. Jackson and Captain Marvel, just because I think he's got such a look that you can just smooth back and transition to. It's immaculate.
But I think this is even more of a.
I don't know.
This is even more of a drastic de-aging though, because he's playing like mid 30s, mid 40s, something like that. Like this is set 1940 something, so it's maybe a decade after Raiders, right? So it's middle of World War II or the end of World War II.
Well, he certainly sounds like
that's the thing.
A decade later.
So that's the thing. So when he's not speaking, I think it looks really good.
So, but the guy who is playing Harrison Ford in that moment, it's not him doing any of this.
No,
I think it is. It not? I mean, I don't know the technology behind it.
Could it be? Him being hung by a noose?
Well, not that. Not the action.
80-year-old man.
But when he's just sitting in a chair, I think it is.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like the Robert De Niro stuff. They shot him doing this stuff, and then they de-aged. I mean, with the more action stuff, that's stuntmen, yes, but
or sometimes
what I was going to say,
not men at all, just a CG body on top of a train.
But in the close-up stuff, like his face, it looked like a really good deep fake in that, like, you really have to, like, it's not immediately noticeable that it's fake, but you can kind of tell.
Like in a still frame, I would probably buy it. Like, he looks kind of like Blade Runner era Harrison Ford. But it's still, there's the uncanny valley is existing, and I couldn't get that out of my head. That's for sure.
Well, and the other thing I was going to say is that it's lit very darkly, especially in this prequel shot. And I thought, is this maybe because to try to hide the de-aging a little bit?
Now, and this is jumping ahead. We will do the whole thing. I promise we will. But just because we're on the topic, what did you think of the later de-aging scene, Jacob, when he meets the young girl at her home and he's interacting with the guy to steal the thing? That is fully lit. I noticed that he is underneath fluorescent light.
Right. And he's a little older there. I guess that would be more like Crystal Skull age, where he's in his 50s or something, but it looked okay.
I think it's fine. I think that's more convincing, and it was shorter sequences. You weren't looking at it as long. Like this prologue is like 30 minutes.
But then when he's in the car getting his hat, Mike, it looks like a detached CGI head is like, "Hey, how are you, kid?"
No, and some of the action scenes on top of the train when it's raining and it's completely a fabricated human, and like it looks like Polar Express. Like I'm going crazy.
Specifically that shot where he's running on the train looked like a video game cutscene.
And that's when they play the Indiana Jones theme for the first time, and I'm like, how dare you?
Yeah.
Right?
Oh, the use of music. We'll talk about the use of the theme
broadly.
Please keep going. Yeah.
But again, just to compare it to The Irishman or Rise of Skywalker, where you had young Luke and Leia in those training montages or whatever, I still feel like the technology has come a long way since then. Or even Rogue One. I mean, the completely fake Leia and
young Leia is one I forget about a lot. I really do not like that one.
The dead eyes,
and you guys just compare it to the Flash real quick. Both of you saw that, but worse than this sometimes. The weird CGI models.
Way worse than this.
Different kind of. Yeah, I guess it's different. I mean, it's different technology. I mean, the de-aging is a lot harder. I think
this is more uncanny.
Flash just had bad CGI. Yeah,
but isn't Ezra de-aged technically like the whole time, or is that just makeup when he's the other?
He just has long hair.
I'm not really sure if they de-aged him or not. Yeah. He just plays like
Okay.
a teen
And if they
version
did,
of
it's not
himself.
30 years. You know, you could get away
Yeah.
with 5
It's
to 10.
like 4 years.
Yeah. But
Just do
Right.
like a Photoshop filter.
yeah. We have them on Snapchat and TikTok. You know, we don't even need CG artists anymore. You know, it's on your phone. One thought is this just like a test reel for like one day we'll have all fake actors? Like that's where I'm kind of thinking.
But
know?
but here's my thing, Mike, where I'm like, okay, well, if you're just gonna make it Spielberg's Tintin, then just make like a CGI
Shit.
Indiana Jones. Like I see what you're saying about like, yes, just like try to make it real and make it look fake.
Well,
I'm like, just make it look fake. Who cares?
I think it's okay in selective uses like this where they specifically want to have this actor play a younger version of himself. I mean, in olden times, like pre 2015 or whatever, they would have just had a different actor play a younger version of him, like they've done before in like Last Crusade with River Phoenix. But now they don't need to do that; they just de-age him, I guess.
I've said it before on this podcast. Yeah. Actors used to have children, and the jobs of those children used to be to play them in movies.
Right.
That is gone now.
Like the Sopranos thing.
Well, they still do that, yeah.
But well, let me just mention. So the problem too is we're looking back 30 years, like in let's say Last Crusade, and it's like, well, we've never seen Indiana at that age, so we can cast anybody. But we've seen Harrison Ford in his mid 30s as this character, so you have to make it look like him.
They've done it before though with Solo. I mean, Alden Ehrenreich doesn't really look like Harrison Ford, but it worked, I think, well enough for the movie.
Who produced this movie? Kathleen Kennedy, who famously said, "We learned the lesson from Solo: never recast these legendary characters."
Well, I think you learned the wrong lesson, Kathleen.
Yeah.
I think you're getting fired after this one, Kathleen.
Well,
I don't think you can
we'll
make
see
up
how
for
it does. Yeah.
Who is this for? This movie, all right? Because Star Wars, you can at least you have the prequels. We bring in a slightly younger generation. Then we have these reboots of younger generation. There's never been an entry point for young people in Indiana Jones. It's just us and our parents who introduced it to us, maybe. And
the difference is
who became a fan because of the Crystal Skull. The only one we want to see young Harrison, like, you know what I mean? It's only for us.
Right. Well, of course, there's also the Young Indiana Jones Adventures, in which he's played by. And there's also an older Indy in those where he plays old man Indy with the eye patch, right? It's an old actor.
Is that true? That's
Have you ever seen those? Yeah.
They should have explained the eye patch in those cowards.
Yeah.
I would have loved that.
Yeah, the bookends of the episodes would have old Indy doing shenanigans. Actually, those are like the worst parts of the episode. But
and next week, I'll tell you how I got my hook hand, and you're like, oh shit.
Yeah,
wow, Indy, you've been through it.
Here's what I'll say. The difference between Star Wars and Indiana Jones as a franchise is that Star Wars as a franchise.
No, I got you.
Well, Star Wars, you can go in a lot of different directions. You can introduce a lot of new characters. You can do different genres within the franchise. It's a world, right? You can do many different stories inside.
Yeah.
Indiana Jones as a franchise is about one guy, Indiana Jones, in his adventures. It's not. You don't need spin-offs. You don't need like people want like a short round spin-off and stuff. And I get that, but like it's not necessary. Like,
well, and here's what I'll say to that point, Jake. This was my Letterboxd review, to quickly plug myself here real quick. And my first reaction to seeing this film, I 100% agree with you. That's like the whole issue with it.
Yeah. Well, I will say, I read your Letterboxd review, and I wrote my own as well. And I agree with what you were saying. I think it's interesting. There's been 3 old Indy movies now, or the last movie in the franchise Indy, from Last Crusade, Crystal Skull, and now this, where it's like could have been the last movie in the franchise.
And guess what? Every one of those films is repetitive. Every one of those films follows the exact same beats to a T, and they're only fun if the character is fun. And the last 2 have been like dabbling with, well, what if the character's not fun anymore? And you're like, well, then you're missing the whole point of these.
I agree, and I think having just seen Crystal Skull, there's so many more of these little fun moments that I didn't get with this movie. This movie, like I said, it's a very bog standard kind of adventure. It never surprised me, really. There wasn't like, it just felt like it was going through the motions, right? They were just doing this Indiana Jones adventure, but there's no real sense of adventure or excitement or discovery. It was just like, oh, we got to find this dial, blah, 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 blah. And I don't know. I was just kind of bored watching it, honestly.
I was super bored watching this movie.
I'll touch on that. Yeah. I think the whole movie is too long, right? And we were talking about over the top CGI, and it's just generally a story about one dude. Like they don't need to make this a giant summer blockbuster. This could be a $100 million budget movie, really scaled back, really down to earth. You don't have to do all this. Like the action scenes are too long. They're too big. It felt like watching at points Jurassic World Dominion. Like it
but
felt
Mike,
so big unnecessarily.
But your whole thing about like, what is the entry point? Who is this for? Kids? What was the market? What was the point? Right. Joe made a good point to us off podcast about like, these films were the American serial to be like, America needs a movie character that they go to, like James Bond, that they're like, fuck, look at this guy. Every summer we'll go see this asshole. It's not really what they intended to do, but it's certainly what it became. And now it's like, the audience for this is nobody, and it cost $300 million. It's one of the most expensive movies ever made. Insane. So when you say pared down small, it's like they never could have done that because they think they're marketing it to the world, and it's never been about that.
It's like two generations of people in America. That's your market for this.
Yeah. I was just reading about the budgets of recent movies, and for comparison, like Dune Part 2 is going to be made for $120 million.
Jesus Christ.
This movie was made for $300 million. What are they spending this money on? It's all on the de-aging technology.
That's when you tell me that Harrison Ford only got 11, that scares me. That like shocks me, Jake.
Right. It's like, what else are they spending it on?
Yeah. Wow. That is mind-blowing how expensive this movie was. And again, why did you do that? Because you have to know that your audience
just like
isn't big enough to justify that.
And it goes back to what I said about James Mangold being like shackled to this current system. It's because the way people make movies now is like you shoot the movie 5 times, constantly you're screening it in front of executives, testers, other people who are just like, and you're just like, is this okay? And they're like, no, the algorithm technically says by minute 5, the audience needs to be really engaged with him seeing a dog. And he's like, okay, so like, well, we'll figure this out. And you dump so much money, and then you go, well, we could cut this thing down. And they're like, no. People are paying to go to it. Make it longer. And you're like, 2 hours and 20 minutes. Why?
Well, and it's so far away from how they made Raiders, right? Why they made Raiders, what they wanted to make with George Lucas and Steven Spielberg just loved these serials that they saw as a kid and wanted to make something like that, and they just made it, and they didn't have a bunch of studio people saying change this, rewrite this. Like, you're right, that's kind of what's wrong with these modern movies now. And with regarding the length and the action, like I totally agree with what you guys are saying. The action scenes felt so long, and they felt over long to hide the fact that not that much happens, especially in the first hour of this movie, where it's like a lot of setup. A bit like, between the intro, which was too long, and the opening current day scenes from him all the way till the car chase in Morocco, it just felt like constant action, constant car chases. But really what's happening in terms of plot, it's not that much happening, right?
Yeah. And I used to, I stand up for Last Crusade because it's like it has every type of chase. It's got a boat chase, an airplane chase, a car chase. So for me to say there's too many chases in this, right?
Yeah.
It would seem like I can't say that, but it's not that there's too many, but they're definitely too long.
Oh, boy.
Long and not doing anything interesting enough that we haven't seen
The best
before.
one is the Horse Ticker Day Parade. That is something I genuinely like in this.
That was good.
You'll just really get lazy modern writing that's like, remember, 3 minutes to be underwater, where you just set up these like self-manipulative ticking clocks that are just useless. I just hate it, dude.
Literally the whole movie is a useless ticking clock.
Yes, it is.
In every way.
Yeah.
And a broken ticking clock, split in 2, Mike.
and it's constantly, we're one step ahead, they caught up. We're one step ahead, they caught up. Like the same 3 beats for the entire first 2
things. Which is a mold that was set by Raiders, where that's the exact mold of the exact formula of Raiders is like at every turn, Indy does something, gets the thing, it's taken by Belloc, right? At every turn, the Nazis are like there to take it, right? And so he's constantly having to keep up with them. That's kind of what this movie's going for, but it's just like, I don't know, maybe we've just seen this too many times. Like maybe younger people will appreciate it who haven't seen as many movies, who haven't seen the formula. But man, as someone in their early 30s now, it just seems like I'm getting too old for these movies. I don't know.
This will never be anyone's favorite Indiana Jones movie. You know what
No.
I mean?
No, I can't imagine.
It never
I
could
don't
have
think
been
this will ever be.
regardless.
This will never be higher than fourth best for most people, I would say.
Yeah.
It's such a bummer.
Right? And for me,
That's
it's
For
just
$300 million, what do you get for it, you know?
Yeah, so
Yeah.
do you guys want to just fucking talk about it?
Well, so let's
Like-
let's talk about it. We are being hard. We'll jump around on the plot. We might not go beat by
Yeah.
beat. I don't think
Yeah,
it really
yeah,
deserves
yeah.
that. But I do want to say,
Yeah.
starting in this
There's stuff to
prologue,
mention. Yeah.
something that I do like, and I did like in this movie, is Mads Mikkelsen as the villain.
Okay.
I don't think he's used the best at all times, but when he's hitting, and I like him a lot.
Yeah.
So my question is, how old is he right here?
Well, he was
And-
also de-aged in the intro scene as well.
He has
just not
dark
as
hair.
drastically.
He's
Yeah.
a teenager. I mean, he is not a 80-year-old man. Is my point. He is
Maybe in his
50 in the
30s.
future. So let's say he's 20
30s
here.
in the
20,
past,
30
yeah.
in the past.
Okay.
Yeah. He's a
But
I like-
mathematician, a little bit of a
The
career
theme
underdog.
of this film is literally time, losing time, wanting to go back. It's his
Change
quest.
things.
It's literally Harrison's quest to change things you could write, right, Mike?
Mhm.
Why not have more fun with the fact that he is a guy who's super old now? Why not have them to be two old guys facing off against each other?
Mhm.
Right.
Yeah.
I'll say this. I like Mads Mikkelsen because I always like Mads Mikkelsen whenever he pops up in anything. So
Mhm.
I'm glad he's getting that paycheck. He was good as the villain. And I like that they sort of touch on this whole Operation Paperclip.
Yes.
Post World War II, America hired a lot of Nazi scientists to do, like Werner von Braun, to do rocket stuff, right? That's who he's kind of based off of.
Because if they're not working for us, they're working for the commies, right?
Right.
That was part of the thing, And unfortunately, they got a lot of their
We'll take
shit
ya.
washed away. Their past was totally hidden by the government, to
Yeah.
allow them to make rockets for us.
And even
So
with
I
the
like
Boyd
that.
Holbrook character kind of being this American who's decided to like become a Nazi and start following this Nazi guy.
Yeah.
Kind of interesting. It's not
They could've
really,
gone
they
further
don't really
with
go in
that.
depth. Yeah, but
Yeah.
I like to see a little bit of like real world political stuff in movies sometimes. And I think setting this movie in 1969 specifically is very interesting because I kind of feel like I never wanted to see Indiana Jones post like 1960. Like it just feels weird. Like he shouldn't
Right.
exist in this time. And obviously he's very old, right?
Maybe that's part of the
And so it's-
theming.
Yeah, the theming is like the world's kind of passed him by. Everyone's obsessed with this moon landing. He's like, why did you want to go to the moon? There's fucking nothing on the moon. It's like the middle of nowhere. He's more
Yeah.
interested in human history.
Yeah,
right? So I
he
thought
likes
that's an interesting
stuff
angle.
on the Earth, Jacob.
Yeah.
The moon is
Yeah.
dumb to him because it's empty. That's such a great little
It's got no-
detail.
Yeah.
Anthropology up there, kidding me? Boring.
Right. And meanwhile, you have Mads Mikkelsen, who's all about science and math, right? He's
Yeah.
like, math will defeat time just as it defeated space, right? So that's kind of an
Incredible.
interesting contrast.
Which is very-
Incredible.
that's like a Star Trek villain fucking stance.
You conquered space. What will you conquer next? That woman interviewing, and he wants to say time so badly,
Yep.
just like
Yeah.
cleaning his glasses. It's fantastic.
Yeah, I
yes,
love
he
it.
is
That is
good,
good.
Mike.
Yeah, and this whole idea is just, spoilers for everything, but he's like, his thing is like, I see all the ways, Hitler miscalculated his shit. Like, you didn't win the war, Hitler lost it. He's like, I'm just going to fix the bad math
What?
of the war.
Right.
That's his goal.
What a fucking subversion for a Nazi movie, Mike, to be like, you're going to put, it's boys in Brazil. You're going to clone Hitler. You're going to put Hitler back in power. No, I'm going to kill Hitler because
Hitler.
he was
Do a
an
better
idiot.
job from his
Yeah.
point of view.
You're
Yeah.
like, oh.
That's an
That is
interesting
interesting.
angle.
Yeah.
They didn't go deep
Yeah.
enough. Like this stuff like Paperclip,
Yes.
they touch on it though, and it's like, oh,
Yeah.
fascinating,
Yes.
but they don't really sink their teeth into it.
And
but-
I like that he's
Sorry.
not just like a stereotypical over the top Nazi villain. Like he's like, no, I'm not like just obsessed with Hitler. Like I think Hitler made a bunch of mistakes. Now I want to go back and fix them.
He was
It
an
almost
idiot.
feels like he just wants to win the chess game of World War II. Like I don't even feel
Yes.
like his ideology is really clear. It's like I just know
Yeah.
math, and I think I could have fucking done better, and I'm upset that
Yes.
he lost. you
He's
know?
somebody obsessed with hindsight. You're absolutely right.
Yeah, and that's like everybody's looking back. We learned that Indiana Jones is, Mutt enlisted in the war, and he tragically died, and now he's
Well-
getting a divorce.
Well, we find
you know?
that out. We will find that out in an hour and a half, my friend. Very
But
obvious.
theming wise, yeah, it's like everybody's looking to
Yes.
the past, things you want to change, right? So
Yes.
again,
Well, I
there's
thought
something
this was
going on
a
for an
little
old
bit
guy
of a
movie.
bummer the way it starts because
I'm
obviously
crying.
the way Crystal Skull ends, right? He marries Marion Ravenwood. He finds out he has a son with her. They're reunited as a family. And to know that that's all so temporary, in 15 years, he's going to be divorced and living alone as
Look
an
at
old
Han
man about to
Solo,
retire.
man. It's his
It just kind of bums me out.
Has it been 15 years since Crystal Skull?
At least
Yeah,
10.
because I'm doing it based on real life. 2008 was 15 years ago, but I think Crystal Skull was mid 50s, so that would make sense that 1969.
10 years or so.
Because
Dog, come on.
obviously, that was all about the Cold War and the communists and stuff,
Right.
so the Nazis.
Right.
But yeah, it just bums me out. Like they maybe had 10 to 15 years of happiness and before it was all over.
man.
Right.
And Mutt, hey, justice for Mutt. Okay, they killed Mutt off screen
Now,
in the
Jacob,
war.
remind me, what have we canceled Shia LaBeouf for? And I'm not saying that in a will judge whether or not is fair or not. I truly just don't remember. I'll say real quick, he's always kind of been my guy. I've always liked the Transformer movies. I know we said Megan Fox should be the lead of those. I agree, but he is very good. And I think he does exactly what he's asked for in Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. I certainly don't think you should kill him as a result of him not being called the Jar Jar of the series, which is bullshit.
That's insane to me. I think he's underappreciated in that role. I think with regards to if he's canceled or not, I know one thing is that he used to date this musician, FKA Twigs, and apparently he may have been abusive in that relationship.
Beat the shit out of her, right?
Well, I don't know if it's that far, just more emotionally abusive, sort of power dynamics type of thing. I don't know if he was physical or not. I don't know all the details.
He's insane. He made that movie about why he's insane. I'm not saying that excuses him at all. I'm literally just saying
he was a child star
this
that had
is
a
why
very,
it happened.
Yeah, he had a very strange upbringing. He was a child star, and obviously a lot of child stars have issues in later life because it's a hard way to kind of grow up.
His dad was nuts.
Is a healthy working environment as well. All of that together.
But no, I always thought he was
franchise clearly, they're just like, nope, Mutt's gone, very unceremoniously.
It's so crazy.
We have new Mutt instead, which is Helena Shaw. Right?
We have Wombat. I mean, truly, it's shameless. It's I don't know, call her another animal.
That's what we do.
She's not your daughter. She's your goddaughter.
She's your Wombat. What are the rules of having a goddaughter, anyways? I don't know. You've said it 50 times. I assumed you would know.
And that kind of, to talk about Crystal Skull as a comparison a little bit, I like that because it was set in the 50s, they did so much with it being in the 50s. Like even that moment where they start a fight between jocks and greasers at one point as a way to get away.
Best scene in that goddamn movie.
Yeah.
It's so good, dog.
There's so many little fun moments like that this movie just feels like it's missing. And they don't do enough to kind of set it in the time period, I feel like. Other than the parade, the moon landing parade at the beginning.
Right.
Yeah.
It doesn't feel like there's any reason that they don't do enough with the time period.
Otherwise, it's pretty much just international.
Yeah. They should do more with the fact that Harrison Ford feels like the world is, or not Harrison Ford, but Indiana Jones, the world's passing him by, He's not, archaeology is old news.
Well, the thing too, he saw the moon landing, but why isn't he I've already seen aliens. This is stupid. I've seen more advanced shit.
It is funny that he's always I don't believe in magic. I've only seen it 4 or 5 times in my life.
I've been cursed by voodoo.
Quantifiably, that does not mean it counts. The fact that an old knight handed me the cup of Jesus that was keeping him alive eternally.
I've seen the literal power of God smite a bunch of Nazis.
I saw a box with the power of God inside of it get opened.
Jesus Christ. Was effective in rendering me useless in combat.
Yeah, I saw a guy take another guy's heart out and feed it to a demon.
But that's math will solve
means
that.
Nothing.
But
magic stones.
You need to math this up and tell me what's going on.
But it's not. So let's just say real quick. What they're chasing are fissures in time. It is a device made by the, of course, great Roman mathematician Archimedes. Mm-hmm. It is a does anybody
Archimedes' dial?
But what is it? What is it's a cilantro sphere?
No,
what on earth is it?
I'll look it up.
Okay.
But it's a thing that's
split into
two. No, it has a name like Atlantiths or something.
Oh yeah, that. Eclendios. It's something.
It's the Eclendios. I could get 50 pounds for that. Oh, okay.
I like in the beginning
fun bit.
The
it's a different MacGuffin.
An Antithythera.
Kythera. Yeah, Antikythera.
Antikythera.
in the
That's
flashback, he's going after a different MacGuffin, which is like the Lance of God or something.
Lance of Longinus,
he's like,
famous.
oh, and it's a fake. He's like mad about it.
Yeah, the Lance of Longinus, the
And you
Roman
think
spear
about
that
how-
pierced Jesus. from
How many
Evangelion.
Indiana Jones missions are we seeing where he like goes and he's like, oh, it's the wrong thing, or like, you know, it's like it turned out to be a fake, where it's just like the movie would just stop right there.
Yeah, that's all the in betweens that we didn't show.
Yes.
Right.
That's the young Indiana Jones adventurer in the old ones where he's got an eye patch.
Yeah. But so Mickelson has the dial because he's a math guy. He's like, that thing is stupid, but what's not stupid? Math. Check this out. And then Nazi officers are like, that dial thing again. Shut the hell up, you know. But
tell me about that dial.
And of course, Shaw, Toby Jones, is also obsessed with this dial, which is another one of the old academics that Indiana Jones just knows. There's like a different one in every movie. It used to be Marcus Brody.
I like that. Yes.
Yeah. But
so the whole point is there's half of it, you know, in the prologue, Mickelson has it, Indy steals it, and then there's a second half somewhere. But in order to get the second half, we need to get the map that tells us where it is. So there's a little bit of MacGuffin chasing going on, and this and that.
Right.
But at the end of the day, they figured Archimedes could calculate. He was so good with this device, he could calculate when fissures in time would happen. And so then Mickelson's thinking, hey, if I can find one of those, I can go back and win the war. That's kind of broadly why everyone's chasing all this stuff.
So what do you think of this depiction of time travel, Mike? Fissures in time.
Yeah, it's just as good as putting spaghetti on a plate, you know?
I think it's interesting that this whole movie is about time travel, because obviously time travel and multiverses are like the big trend. They're kind of cousins of each other in terms of...
Oh, yeah, when the Tom Selleck Indy steps through the portal...
Yeah, you guys are from that Earth, right? Where that's in place.
It's Tom Selleck. He didn't have to reshoot that other TV thing. He
wears fucking denim.
Harrison Ford,
like,
Marty McFly. Yeah,
that's the world where Harrison Ford was just a carpenter his whole life and never
just smokes weed.
Yeah,
never got clean.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's an interesting way. It seems like more of a linear, you know, time flow. Like you go back and it will definitely butterfly effect. It's like one timeline, I guess.
Well,
seems like
it almost sets up a time paradox where, because this is jumping ahead to the end, but because they go back in the past and give Archimedes that dial, but then I think right at the end, Helena Shaw is like, "Oh, we're going to need that back too."
Yeah, he's going to have make his own.
Fix
one,
the time paradox.
Yeah. But the watch is left there. But yeah, so it almost sets it up. But more or less, it's.
Yeah, he wears the watch.
Yeah.
But
let's talk about sort of the inciting incident of meeting Wombat, Helena Shaw, Phoebe Waller-Bridge, Fleabag, as I call her.
Well, you call her
her that
3-2 or whatever her name is.
Yeah.
You call her your favorite droid.
Well, I wonder. Here's my question: do you think Harrison Ford and her ever talked about the fact that she is the Millennium Falcon?
I was in a Star Wars movie. Oh yeah, which one? Well, it was actually called Solo. I don't know if you're
Solo movie.
familiar with that character. What?
Technically,
they made a what? It's like that's the first time he heard that they made a young Han Solo. He's like, "What? Call my agent."
Yeah, right.
Yeah, they should have de-aged me for that one.
That's bullshit. I could have played that.
But yeah, she's the voice of the Millennium Falcon, right?
I guess. I don't
he's
care.
Been inside of her for every movie.
Hey, what do we? Jacob, were you a Fleabagger?
I like Fleabag.
Mike, Fleabagging.
I've seen like 2 episodes. I think it's fine. You know, I don't watch a lot of comedy shows. That's all.
I think it's good. It was groundbreaking at the time it came out. But boy, she has been inserted to a lot of stuff where each time I'm like, I don't know if we can't do better than this.
She's gotten a lot of play based on Fleabag, and as far as I know, she had some like overall deals with someone where she was just getting paid a lot of money and like wasn't really doing that much, but she does get attached to a lot of these projects, which is interesting. And I guess she's attached to like Tomb Raider now, which is like the second most famous archaeological franchise.
She is going to play Lara Croft.
No, I think she's going to write it because she's also a screenwriter.
Interesting.
But I don't know. I should have looked that up beforehand, but I'm pretty sure she's going to write it or be involved somehow.
Right. But she's the goddaughter of Indy.
So she's Toby Jones's daughter.
Yeah.
She's Indy's goddaughter, and but he hasn't seen her for like 18 years, right? He last saw her when she was 12 years old.
Are you guys anyone's godparent?
I'm not anyone's
No.
godparent, but I know my godparents.
I know
I'm not
my
a god-
godparents.
I'm not a godparent or a godchild because
You're not a
my
god
family's
nor
not
a
Catholic.
parent.
Yeah,
Oh, that's right.
so
Interesting.
we never did God.
Well, if I have a
children.
kid, you can be their godparent.
Thank
There
you.
you go.
Thank you.
Just, you can't, which means you can't see them for 15 years until I die. And then
Yes,
show
yes.
that's
You
on
have
them,
to.
okay?
You have to randomly
Well-
show up one day and steal something from me.
So her father started going kind of more
Crazy.
and more insane over this Dial of Destiny
I
idea.
love dials.
Yeah. And Indy
Father,
just
no.
kind of was like, oh, he's sending these rambling letters to me. So he's like, whatever. But
You know who
yeah,
can figure this out for him? Shia
Who?
LaBeouf. The code in my glasses in
That's
my brain. There's a
right.
code in my brain. Like, he could have totally figured this out easy.
Or
That's right.
Batman. I mean, this guy's turning into Indiana Jones' personal Riddler. He's writing like TikTok and the dial and
Oh my
stuff
God,
in
right?
letters like
Yeah.
that stuff. You're getting those, you'd be like, all right, I gotta go stop this guy.
But yeah, Indy takes it from him. He's been keeping it at the museum. It's basically a big info dump. But she
Yeah.
shows up on his retirement day. And
yes.
He's like, oh, I haven't
Oh,
seen you in
oh,
a while.
I also wanted to say, before all this, in our
Yeah.
sad man montage, we got a shirtless Harrison Ford scene at 80 years old,
Yes,
which was
waking
one of
up
the
in his
most
boxers.
humbling things I've ever
Yeah.
seen put to film. I hope this whole generation that has grown up seeing these roided out freak Avengers where you have to see like Chris Evans be ripped, or as my dad pointed out recently when we were watching Strange New World, why is Spock ripped? Like why is
Yeah.
Spock like ripped?
Balkans,
Like
it's
what
logical
is
to stay in good
no,
shape.
no.
Ah.
What is happening to the young kids who see these actors that are all on juice now, which they are, getting these bodies? You need to see a decrepit 8-year-old man who has not done a push-up in 10 years, because that body will wake you up.
That's why we needed
Well-
Peter B. Parker.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
we need to
A
dose
true
reality.
body set to screen, Mike. Peter B.
Yeah,
Parker's,
I'm
I
sick of
agree.
this male body, standard, right?
Bullshit.
It was wild to see, but he's getting
Yes.
angry about the music. I like when he hits the bat on the door. We can see that he's done it several times. There's already
That they
dents.
just
little
and that they
details.
know
Just
the
ignore
routine too. Now to
Yeah.
spend the money, $300 million is going to a Beatles song, I would imagine,
Yeah,
Jacob.
his neighbors start playing the Beatles. He's like, turn that young people, long hair, hippie music down.
I thought he was going to be across the roof where they did that concert. I'm like, no freaking ways. That
would be funny.
right now.
I love it. Anyways,
it
I'm
down,
sorry.
and he closes the window.
Past,
Yeah, he doesn't even
let's
know who they are.
He's
Anyway.
met Helen. Helena.
And she
whatever.
wants to
Yes.
MacGuffin,
So
right?
she
Yeah.
shows up. She
Yeah.
tells him the story where she's doing her doctorate on the dial, right? So she's
I'm
giving him
actually
the
an
story.
archaeologist too.
Yeah.
You are? Wow.
And then it kind of turns into, well, she's also being followed by Mads Mikkelsen and Boyd Holbrook and his goons. And this was confusing to me. So like the CIA agent, right? This lady with the afro.
Yeah.
I was confused by her character because she's like working with the Nazis, but then at some point she's like, "Oh, you guys are like Nazis, huh?"
She
And
is. Let me explain this,
and
and
then
let
they
me
just kill her.
say, it is the poorest insertion of a person of color into this film. You could
It's
have
really
found
weird,
a
yeah.
million better ways to do.
Well, it
this,
just makes
but
her look incompetent for the whole movie, and then she
She-
dies.
She is a CIA agent who is working at the behest of the government to continuously appease this asshole until they get confirmation that the rocket has come back to Earth. Who made the rocket? Made the entire rocket program.
Mm-hmm.
To go ahead and observe his flights of fancy, which are this dial that he won't tell anyone about, but it's an important mathematics object.
Mm-hmm.
Now, not members of the CIA are his personal security crew,
Right.
who are the Southern Nazi idiots.
Right.
They are not working in conjunction. They're essentially
But
against
she's
each
there.
other. When bloodshed comes out,
He
she's
starts
like,
shooting
this is
people."
not what we signed up for at all.
Right.
And she tries to go against.
But then she's
that's
still
it.
with them, and then is killed in the
Oh, yeah.
least surprising betrayal ever.
Oh, betrayal. I mean, she should have just shot herself. It makes no sense.
Yeah, I thought that was
Yeah.
really stuck out as being like, why is this character even in the movie? Like, why did they make her so incompetent? But
I was expecting her to be a part of the story, alongside, oh shoot, I'm CIA.
Yeah.
The government wants to know what's going on. Indy, I'm coming with you. We got to stop these guys. But nope.
No, we got to meet a kid that's going to be inserted. as
We
sort
should
of
get the
a
kid out of here and
role.
put her
Yeah.
in there. God.
So-
this movie's short round. Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh,
boy.
man. Whatever. didn't really round out the cast at all.
He did not. I read, Mike, that James Mangold said he wanted to take the mutt element out, and that not necessarily he wanted to kill him, but to remove that compatriot to Indy and lean back towards the history of having a female companion to battle wits with. I would say you're forgetting Short Round in that instance, who, of course, is a longtime hero and friend of Indy's.
Absolutely.
He could have other male.
Then you have Billy in that movie playing off Indy, and I like that she's like
here's
so
the thing.
averse to adventure anyway.
I think if this movie was made like literally a year later, Short Round would have been a part of it, because this was literally made right before Everything Everywhere became a thing, and Ke Huy Quan won an Oscar. And...
How this film does not have a post-credit scene of him opening a door and being like, Indy, I'm here too. Right. I mean, it's like so easy.
Yeah, a real big missed opportunity. But if that had happened, if this was shot after Everything Everywhere, he probably would have been included.
Pay him now.
Yeah, but now nobody
Instead we
wants
get John
Indiana
Rice
Jones.
Davies.
We don't need spin-offs of this, right? Like, really, they're not for anybody. I'm sorry, Like, I wish you would have been a part of it, but I think this franchise needs to stay dead. It belongs in a museum. I don't even think, like, hitting every plot point is important. You know, they go to Morocco, and then the Nazis show up. There's an action scene. You know, we can still talk about it, but it's like...
It belongs in a pyramid. We are cursed for even talking about it. But hold on.
I want to ask
Jacob,
you...
please, go ahead.
Does Wombat and Indiana Jones, do they work where she's like, I just want to make money, and then...
Now, Mike, my answer to that is, in what world? It's just bad writing. I understand you're doing it for the repetitive joke, but in what world would this character ever, on the 10th time out loud, say, this artifact, let me lick my lips, I could get 50 quid for this? Like, every time you have said that, the guy you're with takes what you're holding or hits you. You would eventually learn the point of, like, oh, I shouldn't say how greedy I am out loud. Like, I understand that the writer's like, that's her one trait. That's all we really have to go with here. So just mention it as much as you can.
Right. I think it was kind of, it's mixed writing, because it's like she only cares about the money, but I guess she grows over time to be like, oh, maybe I shouldn't just care about the money, because Indy is like my new father figure, I guess. But it's just kind of, I didn't like her arc that much.
There was no way for them, they felt, maybe to get her in touch with him to get the dial. Because, like, it could have been the only reason that she wants is to sell it, which then now puts her in the crosshairs of Mads Mikkelsen's people, which pulls us into the story. But, like, it didn't have to be that. It's like, my father's sick, or I don't know.
But Mike, the thing is that the dial is her father's whole thing. So she's the linchpin of the story, that she has the second copy of the journals means that they can keep going it.
Well, I think
to never once have Indiana Jones be like, you're really going to sell that thing that your father was obsessed with her whole life? Yes, I am. And, she goes to the auction, but she just, at the end of the day, she just can't do it. The thing you would just imagine in any normal story they go with. Instead, they're just like, no, she really just wants to sell everything she gets her hands on. I think what they're
going for is that she does care more about it than she's letting on, because there is that moment where Indy's like, oh, you wouldn't memorize all your father's journals just for money.
But she literally goes to the auction in Morocco and tries to sell it. Yes, she has all that stuff, but there is no moment where she is not attempting to sell everything she has in her possession. Right. It's like you said, it's mixed writing. I mean, I agree with you. There is stuff they are intending to do. What we watched on the screen was very far from that intention.
No, for sure. Like, and you would think they also know that Nazis want this to go back in time, and maybe we should just hit it with a rock. And at some point, at any point in this movie, maybe we just
it belongs in a museum.
Destroy it.
If I'll be pinned for a murder, like halfway through, like he says, like at one point he's like, I'm the most wanted man in the world, and if I don't get the Archimedes dial, he just like trails off, and you're just like, what were you saying, Grandpa? Like, wait, what was that story you started?
They pinned the murders from the beginning on him, but
they happen in his office because they're getting the device. Anyway,
a woman whose name funny
when he's trying to escape from the office. He just pushes over a bunch of shelves that have like a bunch of relics on them and smashes a bunch of stuff.
Genius Indiana Jones is like, what if I destroy everything in here and fall and hurt myself?
Like, isn't that your life's work, is like collecting all that stuff?
Right. Yeah, so and you figure at some point either there would be they be aligned more throughout the story of like, look, I know you want to sell this shit, but there's Nazis coming. They want to time travel. We got to either figure this, get the pieces before they do. You know, very Rise of the Beasts. You know, kind of vibe.
Well, let me ask this, because the tipping over of those cases is the perfect example of this. Now, I saw a lot of people praising that this movie lets him be his age. You know, that it
Crystal Skull already did that.
Harrison Ford be an old man. And Jacob, there's a great line in Crystal Skull where Mutt says, "What's he doing?" And Marion says, "You know, I don't think he knows till like right before he's going to do it," or something like that, right? Yeah. And you're
literally
like,
in the first season, or in the first scene of Crystal Skull, when he's swinging on the whip and he comes up short, and he's like, "I really thought that was further," or something.
Yes,
it's like that's showing his age right there.
But that is a good example of he's always graceful still. His supernatural ability is to always self-preservation style get out of this stuff with a bit of grace. Right. When they say feeling his age, I think what they mean is just like, well, he's like slow in some of the fight scenes. And it's like, well, guess what, guys? I don't believe he's doing that fighting for a second. So none of it matters.
He's still doing things that no 80-year-old man should be doing.
Could ever do.
Yeah.
He drives the vehicle a lot. He does a lot of driving. You know, because that's what you can do. You could sit in the driver's seat. Yes, Harrison.
He curses. Right. That's what an 80-year-old did. Oh, the thing's broken. When the car breaks down, it's like, yeah, that's what an 80-year-old man would get mad about.
Right.
But he knew that the chewing gum in that region would seal the radiator. Like, that's like a little hint of his character. I like when he swings the whip and then everybody pulls a gun on him, and he's like, oh, shit, this is the reverse.
It's good, Mike. Right. He uses the whip maybe one time. The use of the music, I wanted to say, that was so horrifying to me when they kick in the dun-dun-dun theme is later, much later, when he gets the gun and he's like, give me the gun. And the kid gives him the gun and he has it, starts playing, he smiles wielding it, and then it's just him shooting Nazis. And it's like, our Indiana Jones was like, he was agile, he would fight, he would move. This is an old man with a gun just like shooting Nazis, just like blowing them away like Dirty Harry. It's horrifying.
Yeah,
but you know, couldn't happen to worse people. You know, and let him have his fun.
Yeah,
you know,
boy.
Right. But it is like
killing Nazis for a long time.
He'll punch him in the face and push him into a propeller, but like shooting him, you know, I don't know.
Yes,
he's more creative
my
than
point,
that.
Mike. That's yes, you're exactly right.
Exactly.
Yeah. I mean, you know, punching Nazis is an old standard. I did like Crystal Skull once again because they're doing something different. It's commies instead of Nazis, you know. I can get behind that.
Well, better dead than red, they say a couple times in this film. Right. Yes, of course, Vietnam.
But I think the Morocco chase was one of the worst offenders in terms of the action scenes going on too long and not really serving a purpose because, again, it just felt like it was padding out the time. And you know, everything
the Jurassic World Dominion Morocco sequence. I think they were in Morocco. Wherever the black market dinosaurs are, there's a whole big car motorcycle dinosaur chase that goes on too long.
Yes, and we have gotten, let's shout him out, Reese Myers Davies. Is that what his fucking name is? Is that how you say all that?
John
Rhys Davies.
Yeah,
Rhys Myers. John Rhys Myers. John Rhys Davies, who played Sala in the first film.
Yes.
Coming back in this film. He's the man who drops him off at the airport, who gets him to the entire Morocco sequence, this whole thing. Yes. He has said up to this point, I miss the desert. I miss the adventures, the ocean. This rousing speech that the whole first trailer was cut around, like the first bit that we ever saw of this film. And you think about the desert action film he was in, Jacob, that first one, and then you think of this Morocco sequence, and it's embarrassing.
I just thought, also just his life seemed kind of sad where it's like, oh, Indy saved us during the war and moved us to America. And now I'm a cab driver. It's like, used to be like one of the best like diggers in fucking Egypt. You're living in this apartment in New York City. Yeah.
That's the joke about, you know, the immigrant cab drivers who come here. They were doctors in other countries. It is a horrifying thing that does occur. But I agree with you. I don't want that for my good, lovable characters.
No. And we should mention, you know, John Rhys Davies, somewhat controversial because he's playing an Egyptian as a white guy,
A Welshman. Back to our
Yeah.
people of color representation.
a little bit of brown
A
face here
Welshman
in
is saying like,
2023.
"Oh, when I was in Egypt," and he's like,
Yeah.
he's like, "They know Egypt history like me,"
Yeah.
and you're like, "No."
And the other thing is,
You are not the last.
in
ever.
real life, he's said several anti-Muslim things in real life. So it's extra
jeez.
controversial, in my opinion, that he's playing Egyptian. But aside from that,
It's
I guess
Gimli. It's Gimli, Mike. What do you like? There
Treebeard.
he is. What do you?
Yeah.
It's Treebeard, Mike, the kindest ent alive.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, he gives a speech. He doesn't do anything really in the movie, though. You see his family and his kids, and that's it. It literally was the trailer bait, right? So,
But I would say, back to
He
Morocco.
says, well, he literally says, "Sorry, I could come on this adventure with you," and Indy says, "You're too old," and it's like it's one of
Yeah.
these moments where you're
You're
like,
the
"Hold
same
on,
age as
pause
me."
the movie."
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
I need to point something out to everyone. You
Right.
are the same.
He's like, I brought my passport. He's like,
Yeah.
you should
oh
stay
no,
here.
because then instead we just kill another one of Indy's friends who he's known forever. When Antonio Banderas shows up
Jesus
for no reason.
Christ.
Yeah. We'll get to that. But
There's
first,
a
I just
whole
want to say,
backstory with that. But stay in Morocco.
Yeah.
Because I do
Yeah.
think Temple of Doom Shanghai, it's like a similar analog of like the set piece in a country, and that's done so
Totally.
much better.
yeah,
Oh yeah. Oh, a million times.
I would say
better.
everything in the movie up to where they meet the diving boat could have been condensed a lot because it, like I said, those action scenes, they just feel padded out. The Morocco stuff, it's like that all could have been like a half an hour instead.
Even
It's
the
like a
train
whole
chase
hour.
prologue could be 15 minutes instead of 30.
Yeah.
I was going to ask, would you guys cut that down knowing
Big
what
one.
it is? Or do you consider that the best stuff of this movie? I
No.
certainly don't.
The,
Okay,
the
I would.
flashback.
Yeah.
It took up too much real estate.
I thought it was too long and it wasn't interesting enough. Like
Okay.
You do 15 minutes and then the title card comes
Yeah.
up. Instead, the title comes up during the flashback, and it's like, when does this end? No, you need
Okay,
15
yeah.
minutes. Of
like
that,
with
and then
Lost
you say-
Crusade, that prequel flashback is like setting up so much about Indy as a character. This is just kind of showing that he met some of these Nazis before and talking about the dialogue. It's more like exposition dump than anything. And it's
And then
not
there's
Basically,
like
for him to be
number
later like,
berries
wait,
of
I know
young-
you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then the rest of it's just filler action with the CG
Yeah.
monstrosity. Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
And then there's like a fight on
Okay.
top of a train, which is gonna, Mission Impossible. I've already seen in the trailer. They do like the same thing where they duck under the tunnel and everything. So
And to take multiple beats of that.
yeah,
Like once is
So
not
that's
enough.
interesting.
Jeez.
No.
Anyway,
Right.
so
Wouldn't
if
Ben
you're very-
Mickelson have died
Yeah.
from getting hit by that thing?
He got
Yes.
hit in the face
Or
and,
have
At
some
like-
damage?
At like 60 miles an hour.
right.
Yeah.
No, he's dead for sure.
No. So
Uh,
yeah, I almost want to fan edit this thing down really bad. But I'll talk about
Yeah,
that
you
later.
could, Mike.
There's
Okay.
a lot
Yeah.
you could do. So up to
You
this
could
point,
definitely
Jacob
cut
was
it
saying
down.
It's too long, Morocco.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
But so we get past Morocco. They're like, okay, we need to go. Well, they figure out that this, not even the second part of the dial, but this map or this, what do they call it? Like the pictogram or something?
the orthograph or something. And you're
Yeah.
like,
There's two
okay,
different
yeah,
kind of
sure.
code languages, and this will
Yeah.
tell you where the thing
Right.
is.
But they're looking
whatever.
for this thing. They think they kind of, oh, okay. So yeah, so they go, it's
And
what,
the
under
Nazis
the water.
find them. It's every 2 minutes. The Nazis find them. They move. The Nazis find them. They
Thanks
move.
for the
They hire this
puzzle.
boat.
Thanks for the solution. Yeah.
Yeah.
Antonio Banderas, the diver, eventually
His
get this whole
old
boat
friend.
of divers killed just for being friends with Indiana Jones.
But they go off the coast of Sicily or towards Greece. We're supposed to believe that maybe Antonio Banderas is a Greek fisherman that is, or a
I think
pirate
he's
that is.
Spanish or something.
Spanish.
I don't think
Yeah,
they ever
okay.
explain him anything enough.
He's just
not
an
like
old
the
friend
movie's
of
long
Indy.
enough.
His name is like Lipanos.
Yeah, he might be Greek. I don't know.
Yeah.
So they go. So the ship that the first half of the dial was found on, Helena's father realized that this part of the boat sank deeper into the water, and that's where this graph thing will be. So they go down, they dive. 80-year-old Indiana Jones goes on a underwater diving expedition.
Antonio Banderas explains pressure sickness and the bends, and in a very layman's term, and sets up, like I said earlier, the 3 minutes underwater sequence. But before that, Jacob, hold on. We are reminded. What is Indiana Jones scared of again?
Oh,
No, it's commitment.
this part I thought was funny. This
This
is
is
a funny line.
Maybe the best part of the movie.
Yeah.
Okay. The one
They
good
say,
thing
"Oh."
that short round does. Yeah. Right.
They say
They say,
snakes.
what's in the,
Why did
what's
it
in
have
the
to be
water
snakes?
there? He says, oh, it's eels. They said, and then the kid says like, oh, eels are just like snakes. And he says, No,
huh?
they're not.
Yeah.
What? Like when these first sees eels, he's like, huh? Like when they even say eels, he's like on edge.
Yeah.
He's like very spooked.
He just
They
hates
look
long,
like
slithery
snakes.
things.
He
Yeah.
clearly has a fear of tubes coming at him.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, so he's traumatized. Then, lo and behold, he encounters some underwater snakes. You know.
Why is it always
Some mores are down there. He's all mad. He kind of gets bungled up. They get the thing. They save each other. Now, you'll be shocked to hear that when they rise, the Nazis are there and catch
The
them.
Nazis show up while they're underwater,
They show up on the
kill
boat
the
in the middle
entire
of
crew
nowhere.
of the boat,
Yeah.
except for the little kid.
Yeah.
They
Why
come
not?
up. Yeah.
Kill the good too. Who cares?
So
Shoot
once
him.
again,
We're
Indy
gonna
is
change
doing the hard
history.
work of getting the artifact just to be taken by the Nazis.
we skipped completely over the auction.
Throw me the rope. Yeah.
Because we did not set
Yeah.
up that the kid likes to ask pilots how to
Yes.
pilot a plane.
He's basically
and has,
doing a plane simulator
Oh, yeah.
before that was invented.
Jacob, some idiot in quarantine wrote this movie. It's like, well, I'm a billionaire. I'm James Mangold. I'm a millionaire. When I'm at home, I use my flight simulator. Now, what would this
Right.
young teen in 1969 do? Well, he would have a makeshift flight simulator, of course.
He
He's
wants to be
also
a pilot.
obsessed with American airplanes. Well, that's this kind of helicopter.
But
Yeah.
don't worry, it'll pay off in the third act, right?
It absolutely will. That's why I wanted to bring it up. I'm
Yeah.
sorry. Keep going.
We have the one-up time.
They come up from the
issue.
diving. Everybody's dead. Yeah.
They come up, they give the pictograph to the Nazis. Then there's this was a scene that I liked, actually. I think the movie started to pick up after the first hour. I got a little more into it from here on. I think the third act was kind of the best, where we'll get to it. But
Yeah.
I like this scene where Helena, you think she's backstabbing Indy just for the money, right? But it's all this plot to get them to escape, right? With the dynamite.
It
and
says
everything.
this and that and do this and do that. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Buying
And
time,
she also gives-
lighting a dynamite. Yeah,
And
that's fine.
she subtly gives them the wrong location, right? So they think it's going to be in Alexandria. She's like, no, it's not in Alexandria. It's in Sicily or whatever, right? So
They do that smart thing that oh Jesus, what are they called? What are the Nick Cage movies called? National
ones?
Treasure.
Oh yeah.
That National Treasure does, where they trick the bad guy by roping them in on the clues to be like, and of course there's 9 muses, and then Mads Mikkelsen will come in and like, and Calypso's the 9th muse. You're like letting them sort of like answer
Right.
the part of it too,
Leading
where it's
the
like,
witness.
you're invested now, get out of here. Yes, I did like that.
Yeah, that's working.
So that's a
Yeah.
good scene. But then they also are just bowed away in the wrong direction. So Mad Mikkelsen's like, they're going west instead of east. And so somehow from that, they're able to discern the correct location. So it doesn't matter anyways. That's another problem I have, where constantly in this movie, the Nazis just kind of show up when it's like, how did they know where they were going? But
That's Indiana Jones for you, I guess. But
yeah.
Yep.
And then they got to get another MacGuffin. Then we go find his tomb. And luckily,
Yes.
it's buried with him. So just got to find where his tomb is. So we get to do some
Archimedes'
tomb raiding.
tomb. It's in this cave, right? They go in these caves that are like a tourist attraction.
Yeah.
Also,
that's right. Yeah.
this
That's
movie's
right,
short
that
round.
is
The
funny.
kid gets kidnapped by the Nazis for a bit.
Yeah. Yep.
The Nazis end up chasing him down into the caves.
They do
Then what
some
happens?
stuff down there.
They open up the tomb, and Archimedes has that watch. That's the coolest part.
And one of the
Yes.
carvings looks like an airplane. Like, what's this?
Yes.
Phoenix? Yeah. So
And we've seen
Which-
at this point in Sicily the puppet show with the dragons fighting off the Romans. So I do want to point that
Right.
out.
So that's a good foreshadowing. Also, the Archimedes' watch is literally Mads Mikkelsen's watch. So you think he would have recognized it and be like, hey, wait a minute.
I would be very personally upset to realize that clearly I am going to die in the past.
right.
Yeah.
Right.
That's
the
the
worst
implication,
place for me to ever die. I do not want to die alone as the only person in my time period, please.
No, unlike another
right?
character.
So this whole plan, right? They're going to go in this plane. The Nazis have a plane ready already, a Nazi plane, if you will.
Mhm.
This reveal. This is, I mean, let me just say, guys, it's a classic. Everybody is so tired and upset, and they're like, what's going to happen? And God damn it, if every villain of this film, including a white Southern idiot who does not speak German, who has been trying to teach himself German this whole time,
Yes.
step out and classic, fucking Raiders
Nazi
of the Lost
uniform.
Ark
SS
style
uniforms.
Nazi SS
Let me put on my
uniform.
black suit with the red armband
The
and
fucking
everything.
thing where you look at it, and I don't know about you guys, but as a white red-blooded American. I keep saying white. I did not mean to say it that time. What I meant to say was white, hot, red-blooded American.
There we go.
When I see this, I just want to kill whoever is wearing this. This is the worst look in human history. I want to destroy the people who wear these outfits.
Right? Yeah.
God damn. It is fashionable, but god damn does it make me want to kill them.
We put
it's
the fashion.
Yes, they do, Mike. Yeah. They do.
Yeah. Well,
they do.
The Boyd Holbrook character, I like this because he is like this dumb Southern white guy. And it kind of shows, again, touching on a little bit of real world political implications of like, yeah, there's some Americans that would absolutely be Nazis. Like their ideology is not that different, right? So he's like, yeah, I'll go back in time and become a Nazi with you. Sure, why not?
It speaks to the dumbest and the poorest and the most feeble-minded of us. These grander illusions. Yes.
Exactly. They also have like the biggest guy in the world, right, with them.
That dude, look up who that guy is. That guy fucking ruled. Whoever that guy.
I actually did.
That guy's awesome.
I don't remember his name, but I looked it up. He's apparently known as the world's tallest professional bodybuilder, and he's 5 inches taller than the Mountain, right? The guy that played the Mountain in Game of Thrones. So he's not the strongest, but he's the tallest professional.
When he breaks that guy in the plane's neck by just like barely moving his fingers, I was like, this guy is fucking huge.
Yeah. But that guy kind of gets a grisly way to go too, because he gets handcuffed.
I'm glad he's a Nazi,
and the kid handcuffs him underwater.
Yes,
like,
I don't care.
That's fucking cold-blooded.
That's what they get,
by drowning. That's right.
Absolutely. I don't care.
That's what they get. Yeah.
So one thing I like from that kid is drowning that guy
mercilessly.
Fuck you, Nazis.
Yep.
So they get on the plane. So there's another.
There anyway, I don't want to.
So they get on a plane, and guys, I'm gonna be honest with you.
Finally, the movie picks up.
Out loud, "We're going to fly through a fissure in time."
Yes.
We're going
back.
I
did like this. Yep. It gets a little wacky, and I did like that. But first of all, we didn't even mention Indy gets shot in the cave. He gets shot in the chest. Like
he gets shot about 2 hours before this plane ride even occurs, and then it's about a 45-minute plane ride. Like he is dying.
2,000 years until he gets shot once they arrive.
Yes,
so
he's right. That's
ends up ahead of the curve.
Technically, I haven't been shot yet. Like, no, he doesn't understand how time works. You're still you.
Yeah. Oh, man.
He is actively
I'll finally end up in a museum.
He is dying.
He is actively dying.
So
kidnap him.
Plan, right? So they got him kidnapped. They got him. We're going back in time.
They take him on the plane.
World War II. Yeah.
For some reason, they just take Indiana Jones with them. I didn't really understand that.
He
either.
says like, we must show him it will work, and you're like, why?
It's
I guess Mads Mikkelsen, just wanted to prove that
there
math
are
will
50 times where you're like, you know what? This guy has defeated us at every turn. Let's just go ahead and shoot him right now. We've caught him for the 50th time. We're very good at this.
He's very old.
The classic. It's the classic.
So
leaving him in the Egyptian tomb. Oh no, he got out.
Yeah.
He's right.
Yeah.
Just make sure he's dead. Just don't walk away until he's dead.
I would leave you guys in the Egyptian tomb. It's the kindness in my heart.
It's the sporting thing to do.
Yeah, sure.
I have to give you a chance. Yeah. Later, when you shoot me, my last thoughts would be, "Damn, he did make it. That's great." As I'm dying.
Right.
Good for you.
But so they take him on the plane. Helena and this movie short round. I don't remember
the
kid's name.
Is it Benny?
Yeah. It might be Benny.
We'll just say Benny.
It might be like Fernando.
I think it's Benny.
With you guys. I'm not positive.
Dolphins
it's
jersey. Who's number 12 on the Dolphins in that area?
That's a Dolphins jersey in
1969. I'm not sure.
All right.
But
Dan Marino's dad. Yeah.
Dan Marino. Yeah. So they take another plane. They follow him, right? I kind of blacked out for a minute. I don't know how
he steals his plane, but the guy who owns the plane is sleeping in it.
He wakes up and they're in the sky. Oh yeah. Helena somehow gets onto the Nazi plane.
Well, she rides a motorcycle into the rain. Guys, I have to turn the music down when I park my car. Not even parallel. I mean, when I pull into the spot, let alone am I driving a motorcycle, looking at the plane, looking at the other plane I just got off of, leaping onto the landing gear.
Oh, yeah. She does that whole bit. So the kid's just flying on his own with the pilot of the plane following them.
Yeah, but luckily he spent so much time in his makeshift flight simulator, so he knows how to pilot it, right?
Yeah, totally.
So, of course, they're heading towards this fissure in time, which is in the sky. There's certain coordinates that the Archimedes dial
These are naturally occurring. They could not enter these if they didn't have the dial.
No,
We
they need
just
the
don't
dial
know
tells
that,
them the
like,
coordinates.
sometimes up in the clouds, fissures in time open up. Is this what's happening?
might
Only
Archimedes knew
Archimedes
how
had
to
the
find it.
path to figure this out. What?
Yeah,
No,
the
explain
conjunction of
any of this
spheres.
to me.
Yeah.
No.
Conjunction
Don't
of
need
the
to.
spheres. What on earth does that mean? I do not remember any of
the
that.
dark crystal. The
Oh, of
conjunction
course.
Spheres. Yeah.
Of course.
But the thing is, so they're heading to Mads Mikkelsen's plan. He's going to go back to 1939, right before the war was lost by the Axis powers, the Nazis.
Mm-hmm.
It's a certain date in 1939. It's 1969, so it's 30 years in the past. But as they're flying, Indy's like, you didn't think about continental drift. Basically, his numbers are off because of continental drift, which Archimedes didn't know about. So instead of going to Nazi Germany, they go to ancient Rome.
So instead of 30
Yes.
years, it's like 3,000 years. Is
Yeah,
that what
they're
it's
off
like
by a
supposed
lot, I
to
guess.
be?
Yeah,
Okay.
because
That
Archimedes.
seems like a huge mess up.
Well, again,
Yeah.
Mads knew the math, but he wasn't thinking in the context of Archimedes not knowing that continental drift existed. For all the math
Right.
that he could do around the stars, he didn't know.
But he was also like, and we'll be above Germany. And they're like, no, we're just still over like Sicily.
No,
He's
he
like,
wanted
oh,
to.
I think they were going to fly to Germany after they went through
Oh,
time.
okay.
What I'm seeing
Okay.
here, the Allied invasion of Sicily was in 1939. So
Oh,
they
okay.
wanted to stop the
And I
Allies kind
saw-
of getting a foothold and then go from there.
Okay. And I learned
So
this.
it's always
What they
Sicily.
go to is called the Siege of Syracuse. Did you
Yeah.
guys know that?
In
Not
Rome.
Syracuse in America.
That's
Syracuse
why.
in Italy.
That's why it really jumped out to me. I was like, wow, other places have a Florida Syracuse. Oh shit, never mind.
Yeah,
Right.
so, if I may, as soon as we're in ancient Rome and we have people with machine guns shooting at Roman soldiers, spears flying into airplanes, there's the...
Dragons.
I'm like, no, yes, this is so much better than Aliens. Are you kidding
Oh.
me? Indiana
Well,
Jones should be in the past.
So
He shouldn't
this
be
is
with
your
an alien.
argument, Mike.
Yes.
Okay.
I don't agree with that, but I do. This
It's
was
more
one of my
character
favorite.
appropriate.
This
I
was
didn't
like my
like
favorite
any
part
of
of the
this.
movie.
I
No.
love this.
Boyd Holbrook essentially having a mental breakdown and having to kill everyone around him and putting a minigun outside of a window and firing it at Roman ships.
Yeah.
That is completely insane. It is cool.
I
He does
like
kind
it.
of go
I just
crazy
don't know.
and start shooting people. Mads Mikkelsen is just like, we need to go back. Like, obviously, this is wrong. We need to go
Mhm.
back through time, get back to Nazi Germany, and but all these Nazis are just getting dooskied by our
Yeah.
heroes, right? And these
And the-
Triamis or whatever are shooting their giant ballista bolts into the airplane, right?
Yep. They're not the most...
the
these aren't,
dragon.
Those are Roman triamis. You think we're in the past? Well, we are.
Right.
Oh shit! That dying old man just growled that at me. Oh
Yeah,
my
Yeah.
no,
God.
once we
And
get
he's
to Bill and Ted
He's
stuff,
just
I'm here
chopping it
for
up. By the way, Mike, it is Bill and Ted.
That's what we need. Like, because as a person who studies the past, Indiana Jones, the ultimate conclusion for the characters, for him, if you're gonna go crazy,
I hated
to
this.
put him in the past, I like it.
I
Well,
hate
yeah,
it.
and I like
That's
this, and I
okay.
when he literally says out loud,
I
"Leave
wanna
me to
stay."
die in the past because I need to see it. It's cool." I
Well,
was like,
also the
"That
idea
is the craziest."
Jacob, you go for. I have a take.
No,
Yes.
This was my favorite, and I think I was like, are they gonna actually end it with Harrison Ford just staying in the past? I think is that how Indiana Jones' story ends? He just dies in the past.
Right. So on that note, I was like, holy shit, what is this movie but two men from a different era? Time has passed them by, and the thing is, maybe I just need to stay in the past. Maybe this franchise is made for a different time, and we need to leave it where it lie in the past. That's what I thought they were gonna do.
I
would break
think
time space,
just
but,
narrative wise, we're owed this one last lesson from our hero to pass on, where you get the great ending of Last Crusade. Sean Connery, leave it, Junior. He doesn't need the cup of Christ. He literally
Yeah.
leaves it. He realizes that that's what it is. We don't get that payoff in Kingdom of Crystal Skull because the object is a thing that then just goes on to become like a thing that's just like doing his own thing and like walking around and stuff.
Yeah.
If in this,
Mind blowing.
Wombat, Helena Shaw, had been like, but we could use it again. I could go back and save my father. For him to say like, no, and I'm not going to save Mutt either, because what we need to learn is this needs to be the
Wait, did they say that in
final
the movie?
nail.
No,
No, they
that's what
don't.
should have
That's what I'm
happened.
saying.
You're
We
right.
need,
Like, did I miss
we
that part?
need,
That's a straight
no,
line.
that would be such a more just
Yeah.
like narrative payoff to this whole message. Instead, it's like truly at the last moment when it comes to the present, I'm like, right. So like, how could meeting the Greek mathematician Archimedes, how could they twist that to saving Mutt? Like Helena Shaw says to him, like, pass on a legend. Like, like in my mind, I'm like, what could they have butterfly effect to fix? And it's like nothing. They can't. That is
Right.
the lesson you learn
Well, I
in
think
that moment. But they needed to let it go while he's there. He needs to have the catharsis to say, let it go. Instead, he truly ends it with, leave me here. I'm a piece
And
of
she
shit.
punches him
and
in the
that is
face and
sad.
makes him
Yeah,
come
does
home.
she-
That is
She
heartbreaking.
forces him to come back to the
He
present.
doesn't make a choice. Yeah.
I think he's not thinking
I
straight. 'cause
can't
he's-
let go of the past.
He's
dying.
shot. He's dying. He's in the ancient past, which he spent his whole life studying. So he's like,
yeah, he
"Let me just
thinks
die
he's not
here."
going to survive.
Yeah. But she's like,
Anything-
no, we
what-
have
what do I
modern
have
medicine.
left?
He
1969.
needs to go where they can fix him. She keeps saying that to them. I'm like, that is a crazy way. They know what medicine is.
That is very funny where it is like, who's watching Grandpa? She's like, just don't listen to him. I'm going to take him home.
Yes,
like, he's rambling.
Yes.
Archimedes, I'm sorry.
I will
I'm
get him
sorry.
his medication in 10 minutes. Just
I'll get
leave.
him
Yeah,
out.
that is. I have had that where I'm trying to get someone into a car, Mike, a grandfather,
Yeah.
where people are like, is everything okay? And I'm like, you don't know the situation. Like,
Or
leave
just
me
a very
alone for
drunk
minute.
person. Like, it's all right.
Yes.
Don't worry.
Yes.
Yeah.
What
But honestly, I
100%.
think that's what it was. Is that he's not thinking straight. He was shot. He's seriously injured. He's dying. So he's just like, let me stay here.
Okay.
Now,
Right.
let me ask you guys:
So
did you
I agree
like?
with Colin on that, though. Could have been
Yeah,
better. Go
thank
ahead,
you.
Jacob.
Did you like the way that the Nazis in Mads Mikkelsen's story ended, where they just crashed their plane and died?
And then he gets two-faced, I believe. Does his
Yes.
whole face get melted off?
I believe so. We
We're
get a
so
little
Yeah,
more
it's
that
horror.
pretty-
image. I'm like,
pretty gross,
what
yeah.
rating is this movie? You're just choosing the strangest things to show
That's an
me.
Indiana Jones
Right.
tradition to have a little bit of grotesque.
That's
A
true.
little bit of face melting. You just
Yeah.
got to put a little
You
bit
gotta
of
melt
face
a Nazi
melting in
face.
each of
But
them.
the ultimate
Yeah.
irony, we see, Archimedes take his watch or whatever, right? And be like, "Whoa, a watch! I've never seen one of these
Crazy.
before."
Yeah.
And then he says, how far have you traveled, right, to India? And he says 2,000 years. And they have a nice
2,000.
moment where they talk, and I like that. And then they go back to 1969. Indy wakes up in his apartment, and then what do we get? We get a nice little reunion.
Mhm.
Karen Allen, Marion Ravenwood, the love of his life.
And especially because she's back, I was like, wait, how did they save Mutt? In my mind, I was like, I wonder how.
He's
and
gonna
again,
come in
dead.
the door. Yeah.
Now let me ask you this:
it's like he's gone.
he fought in the war? So was that the Korean War? Because this was,
I would say
this was
Vietnam
late
War.
50s.
No, he said enlisted. It would have
Vietnam.
been Vietnam.
So he died recently then, because this is 1969, right?
Yeah.
So Vietnam
Oh,
was
yeah.
ongoing.
And they
He
even
would've-
mentioned
he
on the
would've
news who
enlisted as
recently
a
lost his
man.
son. This guy
Yeah.
has now killed people in New
Okay.
York. It's in the news.
Okay.
It would
report
have been
that
like
that's of note.
30 years old when he's like, I'll be a private in the
Yeah,
fucking
if he's
Vietnam.
a
You're like,
teen
why?
or early
wanted
20s
to piss
in
me off, is what
55
he
or
said.
whatever. Yeah, I don't know.
So
If you were asking someone where they would time travel to, and his answer is, I would convince my son not to go to the war, would your next question be like, why? Did he do it just to like piss you off? Would you like not like read the side of like, oh, he probably died in combat. That's the most horrifying thing I've ever heard in my life.
right.
Yeah,
Wombat can ask that question.
right. But, Marion Ravenwood shows up, and I
Yeah.
like this moment where they do the
Why? Why do you
where
like
doesn't
this?
it hurt? It's
Oh.
nostalgia bait. The scene where
Yes.
that bit.
You take
okay.
up,
Where doesn't it
yes,
hurt? Let me kiss you
yes,
there.
100%. When they do
Here.
their first big couple move, Karen
Yeah.
Allen,
And having just
You
seen
know.
Raiders 2 days ago, I was like,
Yes,
oh, that's
yes.
nice. I
That
like
was-
that.
it's very cute. Yes,
Yeah.
agreed.
But again, I like the Crystal Skull ending better, where they're just getting married.
Right.
Yeah, and I like her being a character.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah, she could have been a bigger character in this instead
Oh,
of just
jeez.
showing up at the end as a cameo.
Well, that's the plot. That's the general outline. We've done it. What do we say we jump to final thoughts, wrap up, any kind of, final ratings for this thing here as we've taken you through a journey, dialing with destiny. Final thoughts coming up right after this. Normies Like Us.
We're back here. We're winding back the dial of destiny because we're talking Indiana Jones on Normies Like Us. We're wrapping things up. We're going to give our final thoughts, but let's just for a second talk about the release of this film because this is a good segue into our final thoughts here.
Yeah.
This film opened at Cannes.
Interesting
choice. It
kind
received
of a misread by Disney, I think.
Received
Yes.
not stellar reviews. It almost instantly killed any buzz or goodwill that this film had going for it, which was a marketing campaign essentially built around, hey, we woke Harrison Ford up. He is up and walking around, and he seems happy to do us. That's good enough for you guys to come to this thing, right? And audiences have had the opinion that, in fact, no, that is not enough reason to come to this thing. Boy, it opened to a dismal, I believe, $40 million opening weekend, which truly, for one of the highest budgeted films of all time.
For the whole weekend?
Is disastrous.
Boy, I think it might
have 620, really?
For the opening weekend, but it's probably going to, it's going to have a drop off. And
it's going to play. It'd be lucky to hit 200, 220. Now, this means what going forward? Because I think obviously studios always learn the wrong lesson. So this is this is what? Does Kathleen Kennedy finally get fired? Do they ever do anything with Indiana Jones ever again?
Yeah, I think I don't think they're making another Indiana Jones movie. Yeah.
If they want to really cash in on if they want to milk this frickin' cow, you would do something, with Short Round or whatever, Adventures of Short Round.
I saw
that's the only thing you can do.
The thing that they learned the last time a Lucasfilms thing bombed, Mike, was, okay, we'll pivot to Prestige TV. And it did work out.
Yeah, do a TV.
Well, that's what I was thinking.
Give it a movie.
So I saw someone tweeted and said, like, oh, I'd love to see a Wombat and Short Round spinoff.
What does that mean?
I guess. I don't know. Like, who really wants to see that?
Who would love to see that? Yeah, you, sir.
You know what I didn't like? She calls him Indy so much in this film. I really did not like when she would say Indy. You call him Dr. Jones, doll?
Yeah, you call him Dr. Jones.
No, not to go full that. You either call him Indiana, or you call him Henry, or you call him Dr. Jones. I do not like when...
Well, she's his goddaughter. You can't call him Indy?
That's not enough for me. She cannot refer to him as Indy.
Look, Mike called him Teach, right? So
yes, cool. And I liked that.
Yeah.
Yo,
Mutt is innocent. Free Mutt. Justice for Mutt.
Is innocent.
Bring him back to life.
Yep. Yeah, so not doing great at the box office again. We mentioned this franchise seems like it's for nobody anymore. Like, it's just for people nostalgic for those original movies, which won't be surpassed by anything they create anyway. So let's just stop trying. Let's maybe stop spending so much money on these sequels that are supposed to, make $1 billion and be the biggest entry ever, and they just end up not delivering what the premises of the original.
How do we do this, Mike, to get these greedy studios to stop ballooning these budgets?
This is it. It's happening. Right. They're all having terrible returns except for Spider-Man. They're hopefully learning their lesson now.
That's the big theme of this year, because like I said, I was looking at these different budgets. Fast X was like close to 300 million as well.
How?
The Flash was made for 10 years. Like the budget of that thing, expensive. Legally, they cannot tell you because the development costs alone. You can't even factor in what the Flash.
And again, comparing it to Dune, like each part of Dune was like 120 million. Like, damn, Villeneuve is like getting the most out of his money.
Even Blade Runner didn't do great, but like what he got with 120 million or so in what he captured, like come on, dude. Villeneuve, godly.
And Denis Villeneuve, here's the thing. The complex scientific shots or sci-fi shots that you're like, wow, Colin, Jacob, you saying this, like he saved so much money doing this. It's like, it'll be a beautiful IMAX shot of a person standing next to a practical fire. And you'll just see the color of what the fire and the lighting that it makes him look like. And you're like, that's worth 10 digital Harrison Fords running around the screen.
No, and all they do is a set extension to make it a bigger room and you don't even notice it. Like it's subtle use of CG when it matters, not I think paint everything with it.
This movie, it's interesting because originally this movie actually was going to be directed by Steven Spielberg. The original iteration of this movie, which was like 2015, 2016 when they announced
it certainly was not a Dial Destiny, just a fifth Indiana Jones.
Yeah, but when they originally announced a new Indiana Jones, they said Harrison Ford's coming back, Steven Spielberg's going to direct, George Lucas is going to be involved. And then after a few years of like trying to work it, Spielberg was like, I don't really want it. I'm moving on to other things. And so they replaced him with James Mangold.
About myself.
Yeah.
But can I say something, Jacob? Yeah. I don't think studios would trust someone like Spielberg with a $300 million budget or these huge ballooning budgets they get for these Hollywood blockbusters because he's an artist. Even as what's quote unquote considered the greatest director of all time, they wouldn't let him play with that money because they need someone they can control to keep those costs in check.
Mm-hmm.
Right. I would be interested to see, like, comparatively Crystal Skull's budget and like how much it made. I don't have the exact numbers, but I mean, that was 15 years ago, 2008. Kind of the movie industry is very much different now.
We were in a writer's strike though, so there's that.
Yeah, but even this movie, I thought it was interesting. You know, it was written by like 4 different people. Like 4 different people got screenwriter credits. The Butterworth brothers, which is a very funny name.
Who are they?
Jez Butterworth and John Henry Butterworth.
John Henry, the greatest.
John Henry
clan.
Butterworth. Yeah, my favorite writer.
Well, one of the writers was David Kopp, who
of course, yeah, David Kopp.
Crystal Skull, Cope, and he wrote, Jurassic Park. So
well,
he's
Jacob,
a Spielberg guy.
He
so
wrote and directed HBO's Kimmy. I believe that's the film you want to point out.
Of course, Soderbergh.
Wrote, didn't direct. Yes.
Right.
Yes, sorry. And one of them, was an original Steven Spielberg writer. And Jacob, one of them is the director, James Mangold, who is a great writer.
And the other 2 are the Butterworth brothers.
The other 2 are the Butterworth brothers, who I have to assume came up with The Dial.
I think they're Mangold guys, because looking at their filmography, they wrote Ford v Ferrari. So
okay, great.
Mangold guys.
Directed that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
and Mangold, I like as a director. I mean, he's not an auteur in the same way that Spielberg is, where you can immediately recognize a Spielberg.
That goes for everybody, basically.
Yes, but can I say to that point, Jacob, for everyone who is like, well, you guys don't even understand what he did with Logan. He is going to bring to Indiana Jones 5 because it's going to have this gritty, old, it's going to be real. Indiana Jones is going to say, fuck. Like, can I say something real quick?
Terrible.
Here's what happened with Logan, which I think is a good movie. I think people are now sort of souring on it, but I think for a long time, people were like, that's the greatest superhero movie ever made. I think it's a good movie. Here's what happened with Logan. He made that film at a time where a studio, Fox, had fired 3 people who were in charge of the X-Men properties. And we're like, hey, whoever's left, make an X-Men film. We would love if that was you, James Mangold.
The Wolverine spinoffs, especially. Like, the first one was terrible. He did the second one, The Wolverine. And so they're like, okay, this one was pretty good. You can do another one, right?
Everybody else left us. We've got nobody running the ship. It might as well be you. And in this instance, he's not operating in that same field. He truly is under a microscope when he is making this movie. And the expectations are so high. And now, Jacob, he has signed on to do this. Is another week, maybe not in a row, because you guys did Flash 2 weeks ago. But we're talking about a director who it's like their film is bombing. It's also a critical disaster, and they're also confirmed to be working in the James Gunn DC universe. He is, of course, signed on to do the Swamp Thing movie. He is one of 2 directors confirmed. Andy Muschietti, of course, confirmed to do Batman Brave and the Bold. And then I guess you could count James Gunn as the 3rd confirmed to kick off the universe with Superman. Yes.
Here's what I'll say about James Mangold.
Oh, no.
Well, okay. Here's the thing. James Mangold, he's a good director. He's not an auteur like Spielberg, but he's like a good journeyman director.
I think Copland is amazing.
Product. Yeah. Yeah. He's made a lot of movies I like Walk the Line. Okay,
310 to
Yuma. 310 to Yuma, really good Western. Logan, I do think is not the greatest superhero movie ever made, but a really good movie.
And I do like
Ford vs.
Ferrari. I think it's a good dad movie.
Yeah,
that's why I'm going
to Gran
dad
Turismo.
Movie. I'm like, I have a taste for this now.
Absolutely. So he can he's a competent sort of journeyman director. So him being, him doing Swamp Thing, I'm okay with it. I don't think this movie is totally
it
his
doesn't
fault.
help his ability to draw. It doesn't help Warner Brothers' ability to drum up interest in these new projects.
No.
That's a problem.
And I kind of feel the same way about Andy Muschietti. Like, I think James Mangold is a better director. Andy Muschietti, he doesn't have the track record like he did It, but I think
James Gunn is just going to hire really competent studio guys to do his scripted universe of
I
his
guess.
world, basically.
But is that really different than what the MCU does with Kevin Feige, where
You're right.
any director that has any kind of more creative input kind of gets fired, like Edgar Wright on Ant-Man?
Well,
Yep,
and I'm sorry, we have not pointed this out. Is there anything we want to say to the fact that this is not a Paramount film, that this is a Disney film? Do you guys feel, is there a Disney sheen to this movie, Mike?
Yeah, and using technology to bring back actors from the dead, sort of. Again, I'm just seeing this as their long-term play. Look at with the remake of Lion King and stuff. Now that we can make Harrison look pretty good, give us 10 years, and we can just make movies with all the old actors, and it doesn't fucking matter. We don't have to pay anybody.
Yeah, but if they,
I see
if they
dystopia.
bomb,
That's my fear.
it's not
though.
gonna.
Yeah.
If they bomb, it's not gonna happen.
But if they can have a
they'll make
computer
one
churn
or
out-
two.
And keep
Yeah.
bombing.
Yeah.
Well, we've talked about this off pod a bunch
Yeah,
about
yeah,
AI and stuff too, and we sort of disagree on it a little bit, but we have different takes, I would say.
I see this kind of angle as like the darkest, because it's like, it doesn't cost us nothing to make an Indiana Jones movie for the 600,000 people that want to watch it on Disney Plus, might as well,
Yeah, and I'm only pro AI if it's Grimes' voice being used for a song.
Yes, of course.
Right.
I would say, I kind of agree with you, but I also think that if enough of these bomb, they're not going to continue doing them. They're going to do whatever sells, right? So
I guess that's
obviously you can vote with your wallet by going to see good movies.
Here's the thing. Hollywood really does not do the 3 strikes and you're out. Like sometimes it is something just reflective like this where they go, okay, well, we're just done with movies like that. And you are learning the wrong lesson because let me tell you something. Cheap budget and guy who isn't 90 years old yet. I said it before. Make another National Treasure movie. Nicolas Cage is still alive and
yes.
can move.
Well, they made that.
Make another. I don't
spin-off.
care. I don't care about that. I have no energy or thoughts will be drained
I've been
from
saying
me
that for
that.
a while.
Yes.
I loved the first National Treasure. I love Nicolas Cage. Who doesn't?
You love Book of Shadows or whatever it's called.
Well, I don't remember that one.
That might be the Blair Witch sequel.
Yeah, it is the Blair Witch sequel. But it's a better Book of Uncharted
Secrets,
movie than the Uncharted movie.
Yes.
National Treasure is.
Yes.
And it's a better
of course,
Indiana Jones movie
Uncharted.
In Uncharted, Antonio Banderas was the bad guy of that movie. Now he's just like interchangeably being moved around.
Showed up for
and of course, Uncharted, the video game, was essentially an attempt to make a new Indiana Jones type franchise.
And they did in video game form. Just
now,
really sucked ass.
Yeah. So now Hollywood's just cannibalizing video game ideas that were taken from old Hollywood ideas anyway, so it's just kind of
they were taking
what if the next
ideas anyway? Yeah. Wow.
But what if the next Indiana Jones has video game sequences in it? What if the character is just a video game? Oh, okay.
Right.
Yeah, there's some great Indiana Jones video games. I have a couple notes, even though it's not to really fix this. There's just a couple things that I think would have been interesting, right? Operation Paperclip is hinted at, right? So we know Mads works with the government. So it should be a thing where they have the dial and he's allowed to research it. So then Indy has to break into the U.S. government with the help of the CIA woman.
Yes,
that should have been one of the heists to get the first half of the dial out of the U.S. government. And that's why you're enemy number one. He stole government property. This guy, we're after him, right?
I love that.
Mickelson leads the team to retrieve it on the U.S. government's behalf. They don't even know he's going crazy. Much better.
Yes, and Mike, to your point Jacob's point earlier about the times being changed around Indiana Jones, he needs to come from an angle of, in the past we fought Nazis, that totally made sense. Now I live in a post-Watergate world. I cannot trust
my son
the
died
government.
in Vietnam.
That would be I would have loved to see some.
That would have been better. Or
and that's why he's estranged from Marion, because he grieved too fucking hard. Like, come on, it's right there.
Yes.
And I think to add to that, Mads Mikkelsen's plan should have been to somehow, using time, make it so that the American government was infiltrated by Nazis, so that current day 60s,
when he comes back,
America would be like a new Nazi government.
Man in the High Castle shit. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. That would have been interesting. And then it would have been Indy versus the U.S. government. I like that angle a lot.
And then having to go back in time and fix what it happens when we get to see the darkest timeline. And then we should have had more time travel if we're going to do this thing.
Yeah, honestly, yeah.
Yeah.
Look, Disney, Kathleen Kennedy, why are you not hiring us? Why are you hiring the Butterworth brothers?
We've given you so many ideas.
Goddamn syrup twins, the Butterworth brothers.
Right. It's just it's right there, and I don't know what is wrong with them? It's probably just studio mandate notes and test groups. Like you said, Jay, at minute 5, this has to happen, and it's just like,
yeah, it's got to be safe. It's got to be middle of the road so everyone can enjoy it. So it's a 4-quadrant picture, right? But then if you make it for everyone, then it's really made for no one, right?
Yeah, but you could have told something with him and Wombat. She's more progressive. He's old school. These times are different. You know, it's not like when you were young, Indy. Things are changing. You're gonna have to get on. You know.
Yeah. Instead, they just made her, oh, I stole it from you, then you stole it from me, then I stole it from you. That's capitalism.
And not even in a cool Catwoman way.
And no, and we forgot to point out unnamed kid again. We don't know who he was.
I keep saying Benny. I don't know.
I'm gonna call him Italio.
Okay.
Italio.
We can call him Quinn.
We forgot that
kid with no name.
other than fly.
I like when they go to Sicily and those kids are like, look at that kid in that straw hat, and they're like bullying him.
Well, and then he steals. He is a pickpocket. Yes. I like that he did that. He steals and then pays for the ice cream. And then at the end, that's right, Elena says, let's go get ice cream. And the kids are like, we already got ice cream. And Saul's like, you can never have too much ice cream. I was like, yeah, this movie's very pro ice cream.
I think I've
still Indy's watch.
It was my father's watch is what he said. And he screams at him. And then Jacob, I'm sorry, real quick. The one other time he really lost it, we get through the chase scene after the boat. Helena says something like, and I always said, use dynamite. Or she's got some sort of like catty line that
my friend just died.
And he says, my friend was just murdered on that boat. And he is so angry. It is the 2 times where grumpy Harrison Ford comes through. We are like, oh, this old man scares me.
Well, I agree with him, though. Like, she was being very blasé about the fact that they got that entire crew of divers murdered.
If the whole movie was him breaking the tropes of action movies, that there were consequences to extreme violence and being friends with Indiana Jones, great. I would love to see that movie. 1 or 2 moments every once in a while is so jarring and horrifying where you're like, oh, my God.
Yeah.
And Colin, your ending, where basically Marion and even him are, with that loss being present throughout this, being like, we could change it all, Indy. We could change it. We just got to go back. And he's like, the whole point of the past is to learn from it. I've learned that now. I was wrong. We learn from the past. We can't change it. That's your takeaway. Boom.
That's what Bruce
have
Wayne
a decent movie.
That's right.
I'm upset.
Never change the past, Barry. I gotta go. J-Lo just called. I gotta go.
It's our mistakes that define us. That's why we study history.
Eating shrimp cocktail?
Right.
That's right.
You can have a moral
really, this is
learn from the past mistakes. You know, nowadays.
And that's kind of the theme of this summer of blockbusters, right? It's time travel. It's multiverses. You can't change the past. That's what every major franchise is doing. Multiverses now.
Mm-hmm.
It's weird.
Spoilers for Top Gun Maverick, listeners, if you haven't seen that. I believe we all have here.
They go through the time fissure to save Goose.
The ending is, of course, they get in an old-timey biplane and they
stop him from getting throat cancer.
They're fighting the Red Baron now in World War I.
Val, we're coming. They think we're dragons. People have pointed out.
Rain of Fire.
They end with your lead character, instead of passing the torch, saying, leave me, after being shot, and then the character they would typically pass it to saying, no, let's go, an action sequence, and then they actually carry on. And the stakes for our hero are that they actually have to live on and continue on in the world.
Yeah.
Interesting. I don't really care. I think when you revisit these things and you intrinsically have to start them off at such a low place that you do have to undo the wedding to Marion, the happy life, loving Ox, I think he was the dean of the college, and instead in this one they're like just making him retire, Jacob. Yes, you get like everything you deserve, and instead to go like, well, he can't be like that.
You can't be happy at the beginning of the movie. Yeah.
Yes, I think more places should start from a place of positivity, though. There are ways to narratively figure that stuff out. I don't know.
Well, I'll say two things. One, Crystal Skull did the non-passing the torch better, where at the end his hat blows off. Shia almost picks up the hat. He's like, "Not yet, Sonny.
Not yet.
You're about to die in a war."
So this is my other thought too. I'm like, if I could supercut the first half of Crystal Skull with the last half of this, and somehow just make the MacGuffin the dial the whole time, and not do aliens, and then let him be married. I don't know.
I don't want him to die. Is my issue.
I want the married ending, like Jacob said. That's the perfect way to leave it, and then we leave the character forever.
That was the perfect way to end the franchise. Like that was the happy ending that Spielberg kind of just left it at.
I can see it's interesting. And
George Lucas.
Comic panel in a run of the serials, and we're done publishing this. Here's his final panel. He's married, happy on the altar. Done. See you later.
Right, and it's interesting because after that movie came out, they were talking about doing a fifth one, and Harrison Ford said, I would do it if it doesn't take another 20 years because it took 20 years between 89 and 2009, right? Yeah. And it ended up taking almost 20 years. It took 15 years, right?
That is so embarrassing.
You
dude.
said 20.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Don't worry, Harrison.
I'm a man of my word. It wasn't 20. Oh, great, Grandpa.
Yeah.
But I mean, this is for sure the last Indiana Jones movie, at least 100%. With Harrison Ford, because what are they going to make another one when he's 90? I don't think so.
So will they ever touch the character again without him?
Only to do I could see a young prequel type situation. They're not going to, I don't think they would
no, Jacob. I want 1962. I want kind of still old. Yeah. Just cast, Mark Ruffalo.
The only thing I would want is and by young, I mean like young Indiana Jones adventure. Him as a teen or a kid or something, or a young guy, but don't reboot him as like a mid-30s guy like he was in Raiders or whatever, because no, I just don't want that.
Chris Pratt, your favorite Mario Mike, was rumored for years. I mean, do you want to see another actor play this character?
The one who could do it is Chris Pine. Edgin, good old Edgin. He's got charm.
I still don't want it. I still don't want it.
He could, and I still don't want it.
And Harrison also, they asked Harrison Ford about it. He said, I am Indiana Jones. When I go, he goes. So I don't know if he has the authority to make that decision in terms of creative rights, but that's what he said.
Seemed to work out for Back to the Future. So,
Polar Express one. That's what I'll put money on the Polar Express version of an Indiana Jones down the line with Harrison's likeness.
Yeah, I think most likely it would be like a short round spin-off or something like that. Like what they're most likely to actually make. But
they shouldn't make any of it, to be 100% honest.
I don't think so. I don't think
it's a dead franchise.
I'm not kidding. I like Spielberg's Tintin. I like both National Treasure films. Uncharted is pretty much unwatchable in my opinion. They go into a Papa John's at one point. You have to watch Mark Wahlberg be like, "I'm in a Papa John's." I mean, it is like the worst film on the planet.
I haven't seen it.
Oh, that might be your viewing tonight, my friend. I think it's on Netflix. I think you got a date.
Book of Shadows.
I'll tell you, I might rewatch Kingdom Skull.
Jeez, Kingdom Skull.
Or whatever it's called.
You don't. Yeah, it doesn't deserve its whole name to be pronounced. Okay.
Kingdom Skull Island.
Yes.
Again, I think Kingdom Skull is good. I even like the aliens in the end.
I like the aliens.
If you can do supernatural, you can do aliens, you can do time travel. It's all fine.
If Jesus exists, an alien exists.
Ancient aliens. Yeah.
That's my theory.
That's it for me. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, Indiana Jones, we like the movies that we got. We don't need any more. I didn't like
all the movies we shot. Yeah.
Yeah.
They used to make like original properties in Hollywood, and I think that they should still do that.
The tagline for this first one was "Here comes the next great hero" or something like that. Like truly, it was like, "Hey, here's something you haven't seen before." I would love to go back to something like that.
So hopefully, with all these things flopping, like monetarily, they're like, okay, because there has been things like Cocaine Bear that's like cheap and it just makes a ton of money, right? Relatively. Right. So lower the budget, introduce new IPs, you're risking less. Yeah, Spider-Verse is the exception. It's the only thing that's good.
Yeah. But Spider-Verse was made on a modest budget of like $100 million and made a ton of money.
Yeah.
And because it focuses on characters and story and it's not bloated in any way. Anyway. Just do it right. So we'll see, but they should definitely.
But some of these big franchises, they're getting too insane. Like the Fast X budget, like what are we doing, folks?
Not everything deserves an in-game budget.
No. I truly watched this movie, Fast X, any of these other ones that have come out this summer. I'm like, I don't like movies anymore.
I'm getting
like
these kind of movies. There's still diamonds in the rough, I think, but it's like if you're making a movie for $300 million, then it has to make 600 million just to break even with marketing and everything. So like you're really shooting yourself in the foot. And like we said in the Star Trek, I think I talked about Chris Pine talking about the future of Star Trek and saying, look, these don't need to make Marvel money. Like these should be made for sub $100 million budget so they can make a mid-sized return and not be a huge, box office bust. So that's
how I
feel about this.
And Jacob, we brought that up on that episode, the D&D one, but you know what I was thinking about? Because I almost brought that up to my brother when we were talking Beast Wars 2. But the card that they play is like Lorenzo Di Bonaventura, the producer of Transformers, is like, yeah, but a couple of those two that we put a really big budget in, China went crazy for, and they broke $1 billion. And like, so sometimes we do have to chase that. And you're like, yes, you do have these couple of examples that did work. You shouldn't be focusing on that. How do you tell them that, though, whose job is to literally, I need to make as much money as I can?
Well, I think that you could have done that for less budget too. Like it's not because of the budget that they were successful. It's more that China loves Transformers for some reason.
Yes,
like they generally do well.
I think that's a very good point. It could have been a payout regardless.
I once won $500 on a scratcher. I bought 30,000 more and haven't won. But I beat it once. Yeah.
And again, it's so weird mentality. That most of these high budget movies, they have like a lot of effects and stuff like that. This movie, it's like, again, I really don't know what they spent the money on, unless de-aging technology is just really expensive for that.
Boy, it must be. It must be.
Because like, what else are they spending money on?
There's 3 countries that we go to. Some Rome, I don't know.
Yes.
How did you guys
I'll say this as we're wrapping up.
Well, that's what I wanted to ask. How did you guys see it? How was the theater? Because box office not great.
It was terrible. It was terrible.
Crowded matinees. What did you guys hit?
No, just me.
No, I saw it in a matinee, very uncrowded. I mean, I saw it at like 1 p.m. in the afternoon. Went in the theater, got a soda, immediately spilled a bunch of soda on my shirt.
Oh, no.
So I was dealing with that. So I was already had a bad mindset going in.
Dang,
watched a bunch of trailers that I've already seen. I was like, man, I don't want to be here. But
you're mad at Harrison Ford because your shirt's stinking. Like, this is your fault.
All over my shirt.
I was glad to just get to see Craven on the big screen.
Oh my God!
God!
Of course.
I went on Saturday early afternoon, like 2:45 at the Alamo, but every screening around that time in the afternoon was full. Like there was only seats close to
opening
the
weekend,
and for a theater for movie nerds. So that was like pretty full over there. That's
a good sign.
That's good.
Yeah. So I
did see it on. Yeah. I did see it on a Monday at 1 p.m. So it's like probably the least busy time to go see a movie.
Right. And it passed that opening weekend. But they did have a little thing before that was a recap of all the Indiana Jones. And then they showed the marriage at Crystal Skull. And there was one joke that I need to shout out. And they said, he gets married at the end, proving that Indiana Jones was the Marion type after all. And I thought...
Oh, I don't like that, Mike.
Incredible.
I boo that. I boo that, man. I boo that joke.
I also want to say...
That's the most fun I had in the theater, I think, this whole time.
Sure.
Talking about that marrying scene, this is the only movie that doesn't end with the credits scrolling over the last scene of the movie.
Right. Which is such a fun thing to end the movie on.
Both bookends.
So we lose that. I will say, at least they did red lines on the map showing where they're going. That's an Indiana Jones staple. You gotta have that. That's one of
those things where you feel they were just their hands were forced.
Yeah.
What could you cut this down to? An hour 45?
No. Oh, at least.
Definitely like 2 hours or less. Like
easily.
Cut a lot of the action.
Easily. So here's what I want to point out. Originally, we were going to do a special crossover episode. We were going to do this with our friends over at the Cargo Bay. BC and Adam are doing a special series where typically they only cover Star Wars stuff. Now they're jumping into a Lucasfilms. They're going to do their reaction to Dial of Destiny. They couldn't see it in time, but we would urge our listeners, go check out that pod as well, because I am curious what their thoughts on this thing were, considering that the three of us all thought it was bad, and Mike is just convinced time travel is better than aliens, and that's why he's the only holdout on this.
I think Mike is the highest on it.
The fucking garbage excuse.
No, I think from what I could tell of Mike, you thought it was okay, and you were the highest on it.
It was okay.
I thought it was dog shit.
I was like, so like, if we're doing time travel, if we're jumping the shark, have fun with it.
Let's go. Yeah.
Let's go. So that's it was fun. It had fun sequence. Just everything's.
You would only enjoy the alien if somebody got probed at the end. Like you really want them to like embrace the alien.
Yeah, dude. I want the alien to embrace me.
Well, again, I'm a Crystal Skull defender. I'm a Mutt Williams defender. So
we're normies. We're normies on this podcast. If that's your
normies.
opinion, guess what?
Yeah.
Fucking sorry.
I love Timeline. You kidding me?
This was Timeline the movie, Mike.
Greek Fire.
God, Richard Donner. Fucking piece of shit. Michael Crichton classic. Oh.
Anyway.
Well,
which I believe ends with an archaeologist saying, "Leave me in the past. I want to become history." I believe that is the end of that film.
Hey, you know what I say?
Gerard Butler.
Oh, yeah.
Gerard Butler. You know what I say? Leave me in the past before I saw this movie. That's where I want to go.
Jay, why are you speaking Greek to me?
Que
questo capace.
Well, right. Enough. We've done this whole Dial of Destiny, gone to the past, but next week, we'll probably be going into the future, right? We're going back to space. At least
wow,
that, right?
Finally,
yeah.
We haven't talked enough about
the Superman
thing. I don't think.
No, yeah.
Oh, we didn't mention John Williams.
John Williams. Here we go.
And he said he did say this was his last film. I think he's retiring.
Good.
Wow,
I think it's easy. It's probably easy for him to make. Like he's 91 years old, but
he's already written a lot of the motifs anyway.
Yeah, you just.
So everybody who's here, play back what Indiana Jones sounds like, and they just do it. And he's like, "Great, that, but like slow it down a little." And they're like, "Great, you got it."
Okay.
If you look at his recent output, it's like this. He did Meet the Fablemans.
Star Wars.
This Disney Star Wars trilogy, but he pretty much only
West Side
does
Story,
Lucasfilm properties or Spielberg at this point.
Yep.
So, God love him.
The guard. It's like a weird swan song maybe for this era, like the Spielberg era. Yeah, right? All those guys. Lucas.
Do you guys think George Lucas has seen this movie?
Yes.
Probably he has. Yeah.
I don't know.
Do you think he's seen the Star Wars Disney trilogy?
I guarantee he has at least seen all three of those. I bet he has not seen all of Mando, all of the shows or whatever.
Yes. No. Yeah. He's not watching 10 hours of TV.
Could you imagine if he gave his thoughts on Boba Fett season 1?
I like Boba Fett because of his cool costume.
When he does the spin and shoots, it was cool.
We put it on Tatooine because we would go out to the salt flats and race hot rods. So to see the hot rod,
this guy is a real cool guy. His name
Here's
is
the thing: we're never We're never gonna get past this. I'm sorry to keep doing this.
Okay.
Mutt Williams is cool because he is George Lucas. He's a little greaser boy.
He's greaser.
It's important. It's important. This has none of that. None of this relates to any of the people who made it. None of it.
No.
Even Harrison. None of it.
It's just the director trying to do Spielbergian, but he's not Spielberg. Yeah.
As mandated by studio. Right.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So.
Also, James Mangold was supposed to make a Boba Fett movie and keeps talking about what it was supposed to be on this press tour. And and he literally says and when I pitched it, they were like, "No, don't do that." So it was like a spaghetti.
Probably would have been better than
I'm sure it would.
What we got. Yeah.
Oh, geez. Well, again, we can't change the past. They can't change their past, and this is the movie we're left with. And again, I think for me, I put it above Crystal Skull because I like the time travel more. Okay, I'm sorry, but that's how I feel.
No way.
Okay, you got homework tonight.
Aliens.
You're rewatching Crystal
Skull. I should rewatch it.
Rewatch it and could just compare the cinematography, and it's just like
Mike will be doing an update on our next episode to give you guys the truth.
Right, you're probably right. Maybe the aliens was just too much. The prairie dog and the aliens really irked me. But
you got commie dominatrix Kate Blanchett.
Dog.
What else could you ask for?
I don't know. Mads Mikkelsen's pretty cool.
He is pretty cool. He is the true Witcher. All right, now we have been your hosts. No, we're not at that part yet. Rewind the dial. As always, when you listen to this podcast, you can find us on all social medias at normies_like_us, where you can rate, review, subscribe this podcast. It helps out a lot. Please do not leave any cryptic clues in Greek that we would have to burn a tablet to read. That's not helpful for us.
No, we don't speak ancient Greek.
No, I'm not going to be able to figure it out.
Greek to me.
Yeah.
No, it's Greek to Mike.
Yeah.
But otherwise, we have been your hosts. This is Dr. Indiana Colin Sr. That's right. I'm Sean Connery.
Yeah. Michael Mikkelsen.
We named the dog Colin. This is Indiana Jacob. That's my
Junior, did you go back in time?
Yeah, I did, Dad.
You didn't come and see me when you went back in time, Junior. Interesting.
I was talking to Archimedes. Bye, Normies.
Bye, Normies.
Bye.